Hello, everyone. Welcome to another fantastic audiobook session. If you're interested in accessing additional chapters, please check out the playlist linked in the description below. To support the author, you can find a link in the video description. A special thanks goes out to our Patreon member who requested this novel. If you'd like to request any audiobook that is freely available on a website, please consider joining our Patreon community. Members can send me the link and name of the novel they wish to hear. Lastly, if you'd like to listen to this audiobook in the background while your phone is off, you can purchase a Google Drive link.
The floor areas of the dungeon are divided according to the strength of the monsters. The upper floor is the territory of 4.1 monsters, the middle floor is the territory of 4.2 monsters, and the lower floor is 4.3. The deep layer 37th floor is 4.4, and from the 37th floor to the 49th floor is 4.4. Starting from the 51st floor, it is a new area. Although it is still called the deep layer, it can be said to be a new world. Starting from the 51st floor, the strength of the monsters is almost 4.5, and there are almost no 4.4 monsters. There is even an 4.6, which is the Balkan Dragon King on the 58th floor. However, up to this floor, only one 4.6 monster has appeared, that is, the Dragon King. And now, on the 59th floor, Morning Star feels a large number of monsters whose auras can be compared with the Balkan Dragon King. This means that the 59th floor is the same as the previous floor boundary. It is a new area, and it is the world of 4.6 monsters. Of course, there is still 4.5. And this situation is just right for the current Loki family and Astrea family. That's why Morningstar said that the next 59th floor is a rare place for training. After a short rest and replenishing some consumption, everyone set off again and stepped into the passage leading to the 59th floor. Speaking of which, you have been to the 59th floor before. What is the 59th floor like? In the dark passage, everyone moved forward with the help of lighting props, and Elixir asked curiously, "When I came here before, this place was occupied by the fallen fairy clone. There were only the fallen fairy clone and new monsters, and there were no other monsters. According to what Morningstar said just now, this place has changed, and it should no longer be this abnormal phenomenon." Finn smiled and shook his head, and then replied, "Is that so?" Elixir raised her eyebrows when she heard it. Morningstar has just said that there are many monsters in the new 59th floor that are comparable to the Balkan Dragon King, that is, 4.6. The next strategy will be a fierce battle. However, risks are often accompanied by opportunities. As long as the 59th floor is conquered, I believe the grace of the people present will be greatly improved. Livalia said, "That's true. The reason why the Zeus family and the Hera family can improve so quickly is because the floors they step into are deep enough and the monsters they deal with are strong enough." Alice nodded in agreement. Speaking of which, how many members of the Zeus family and the Hera family were above V.6 at the beginning? Livalia, you have been in Orario for almost 30 years, you should know, right? At this time, Dione, who had not spoken much, suddenly spoke up and asked curiously, "Yeah, I also want to know. When I came to Orario, the Zeus family and the Hera family had disappeared." When this was mentioned, everyone present wanted to know. Among the people present, only Finn, Grace and Livalia had a lot of contact with Zeus's family and Hera's family. What contact did the others have with Zeus's family and Hera's family? Although Alice had contact with both Althea and Shardo before, she had only contacted them and didn't know anything about the others. To be honest, Chenxing was also very curious. In the previous life, I learned a little through novels and games, but it was only a few words and only a one-sided understanding. What about Zeus and Hera? Those guys are just a group of monsters. They directly attacked the 71st floor. If the guild hadn't entrusted them to handle the 3 major commissions, they would probably continue to attack. At that time, Zeus's family had 2 4.8, Hero and Tyrant, and Hera had 10 V.9 Empresses. In addition, the 2 major clans have several Leave 7, and there are dozens of Leave 6 members, and even more Leave 5. Hearing this, everyone present was surprised except Finn and Chenxing. I didn't expect that the Zeus clan and Hera clan were so powerful. Not only did they have 2 Leave 8, but they also had 1 Leave 9, and even many Leave 7. You know, in today's Orario China, excluding the cross-level combat power of Chenxing and Isai, there are only 4 Leave 7, and Master Finn has just upgraded. This is already the top clan of Orario today. You can imagine how terrible the strength of the Zeus clan and Hera clan was. Thinking of this, everyone felt a sense of surprise again. Such an existence was actually destroyed by the Black Dragon? Finn saw everyone's reaction, but he didn't stop and continued to talk. "We were all chasing after them, but we could never get close to them. Even now, we are still chasing after them, and we dare not say that we can compare with them. If there is anyone who can compare with Zeus and Hera's family, it is only Morningstar." It was not Livalia who answered everyone, but Finn. When Finn said these words, his tone was very heavy. Hearing this, Isai and others looked at Morningstar. Indeed, Finn was right. In today's Orario, the only one who can compete with Zeus and Hera's family in terms of combat power is Morningstar. It's a pity that they suffered a disastrous defeat when they conquered the Black Dragon. The queen and the tyrant both died there, leaving only heroes back in Orario. But not long after returning to Orario, heroes automatically withdrew and became a stepping stone. Leviathan took over the conversation. You can imagine how terrifying the Black Dragon's strength is. Now the gods of Orario have placed their hopes of defeating the Black Dragon on us. Alexander is really awesome. Grace also spoke for the first time, but her words were sarcastic. Why, you don't have confidence, Grace? Hearing Grace's words, Finn couldn't help but tease. After listening to the three people's stories, even though they knew that the withdrawal of Zeus's family and Hera's family was due to the Black Dragon, the people present still felt extremely depressed and had the same idea as Grace. Even Aisi was the same. Although she had a strong will to fight in her heart, she still couldn't help feeling unconfident. The luxurious formations of Zeus's family and Hera's family ended up like this. Can they really deal with it? The atmosphere suddenly became depressed, but Morningstar was calm and not affected at all. Morningstar, are you sure you can deal with the Black Dragon? Livalia noticed Morningstar's reaction, narrowed her eyes slightly, and a faint smile appeared on her face, and asked. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes shifted to Morningstar. Me, you let me deal with the Black Dragon now, and I can get away with it. Looking at everyone's eyes on him, Chenxing blinked and then gave an answer. This is Chenxing's conservative estimate. After all, Chenxing now has divine power. If he really wants to kill the Black Dragon, he can probably kill it. Even if he can't kill it, he can still retreat. But Chenxing won't go against the Black Dragon now. He is only 4.6 now. If he goes against the Black Dragon now and kills it, who will he find to improve his achievements when he reaches a higher level in the future? Ahaha, Chenxing, are you so confident? Hearing Chenxing's answer, everyone present was stunned. They didn't expect Morningstar to give such an answer. Then Finn laughed and said with a smile. Livalia asked whether Morningstar would be able to deal with the Black Dragon in the future, not the current Morningstar. Unexpectedly, Morningstar said that he could deal with the Black Dragon now. This was something Finn couldn't imagine at all. Others were also a little bit unbelievable. Morningstar didn't care about the reactions of the crowd and didn't explain. However, Dione didn't hesitate at all and had absolute confidence in Morningstar. I believe Morningstar can do it. Me too, me too. Diona also shouted. I believe in Morningstar too. Aisi hesitated for a moment, and then spoke. Me too. Ganyai also whispered. It seems that the words of Aisi and others have infected others, and they seem to have this feeling and speak one after another. I believe it too. After all, Morningstar is so mysterious. Alice said with a smile. Ah, that's it. Gohano Kagaya covered her mouth, revealing a pair of fox eyes, and said with a smile. I believe it too. Liu's tone was very serious. Come on, Mr. Morningstar. Mr. Morningstar should be able to do it. Except for Finn and the other two, everyone else seemed to have handed over the task of dealing with the Black Dragon to Morningstar. In response, Morningstar's expression was a little strange, but he didn't say anything. Your prestige is really strong now, Grace said with a smile. However, just as the voice fell, the passageway that everyone was heading to suddenly changed. This scene instantly attracted everyone's attention. The ground began to swell, and under the dim light, thick tree roots rushed out from the ground and rushed towards everyone. There are monsters in the passage. Looking at the rushing tree roots, Finn couldn't help shouting. You know, there are never monsters in the passages leading to other floors, but I didn't expect it to happen today. Everyone was also very surprised, but the people present were all adventurers. They all reacted immediately. Before the tree roots rushed in front of them, everyone launched a counterattack and easily destroyed the attacking tree roots. Hurry up and rush out. It's too narrow here and the light is dim. It's not good for us. After destroying the tree roots, Finn quickly issued an order, and everyone quickly rushed to the entrance of the passage emitting light, and soon rushed out of the passage and entered the 59th floor. Swoosh, here it comes, servant. Chapter 202, New 59th floor. As soon as they left the passage, Chenxing and the others were attacked fiercely, and countless thick tree roots swept towards them. The crowd did not dodge, but went straight up and destroyed the tree roots. Although they did not know what these tree roots were, the attack power of these tree roots was not strong after all. They were only 4.5 level. The members present, melee adventurers, were all above 4.5, so it was no problem to deal with them. Chenxing did not take action as before, but just silently released the gate of heaven to brush up the magic value. However, just as Finn and the others dealt with these tree roots, dense red fireballs appeared in front of them and blasted towards them. What a warm welcome. Looking at the continuous offensive, Finn's mouth corner slightly raised, and his tone was joking. It should be an amazing welcome. Grace did not stop the giant axe in his hand. He chopped it out directly after destroying the tree roots, and did not forget to complain about Finn while attacking. Haha, more. Tiona shouted excitedly. Hey 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 hey. Tiona swung her big double blades vigorously, and the fireballs that came at her were swept into pieces. GFT, dit, GFT. Ace also swung the sword of despair in her hand, and the fireballs were torn into pieces. Others also continued to attack and destroyed the fireballs that hit them. It's really exciting, more. Alice shouted excitedly with a long sword emitting flames in her hand. Everyone's attack was very fierce. After tearing up the groups of fireballs, they continued to run forward. However, the attacks of monsters can be said to be endless. 093 The fireball attack was just destroyed by everyone, and a large number of wind blades and lightning strikes came from the back. This scene surprised everyone. Along the way, they also encountered many monsters that could use magic, but it was the first time they encountered magic of several attributes in a very short time. Morningstar, please investigate the situation. Finn opened his mouth and wanted Morningstar to help investigate the surrounding situation, but before he could speak, Vilya, who had been beside him, spoke up. These attribute magics are caused by monsters a few hundred meters away. That is a monster with 4 dragon heads. I call it a 4-headed chimera. Also, there are tree roots under our feet. The source is unknown for the time being, but they will attack at any time, so be careful. As soon as Livalaya finished speaking, Morningstar gave a reply. As early as after entering the 59th floor, Morningstar used the gate of heaven to spread the veins of light and discovered the situation in front. The monster with 4 heads is the same as the monster that was parasitized by one of the fallen fairy clones that Morningstar had destroyed before. As for the tree roots, Morningstar has not found the source yet. The source of the tree roots seems to be a bit far away, pointing directly to the center of the floor. However, Morningstar can be sure that the source of these tree roots is a very scary plant-type monster, because Morningstar found that the land under their feet was covered with the tree roots that had just attacked them. These tree roots stopped attacking after a wave of attacks and did not continue to attack. Morningstar would not believe that these tree roots really stopped. They were definitely lurking and looking for the best opportunity to attack. Hearing the size of Morningstar, everyone was already very wary of the ground, and now they were even more cautious. CGBH. Thank you. Finn responded, and then stopped talking, and devoted himself to the battle. Everyone present could handle the situation in front of them, and he did not need to command. He just needed to kill all the monsters that attacked them like everyone else. Others also thanked him and then moved forward. Not to mention the tree roots underground, they had to get rid of the 4-headed monsters in front of them on the ground. The power of magic attacks is no less than that of physical attacks. Morningstar, Livalaya, and Lefia also ran after him. The two followed Morningstar on the left and right. A beam of light from an instrument was wrapped around Lefia's waist, and she continuously released white light magic in her hands, sniping at the magic bombarding from the front. And Livalaya was chanting in parallel. The people who were killing monsters in front had been paying attention to Livalaya's magic chanting. As Livalaya's magic chanting text came to the end, the people who were fighting and killing monsters flashed to both sides. Snow blowing all over the sky, 3 severe winters, my name is Alf. Ecstasy Fimbul Winter. The extremely cold large-scale freezing bombardment swept out from Livalaya's front, and in an instant, everything in front of her turned into a world of ice and snow. The magic of various attributes bombarding from the front could not even think of a ripple in front of Livalaya's magic, and was completely annihilated. In just a few seconds, all the dangers in front of everyone were completely eliminated. By the way, even the underground crisis was eliminated. The terrifying cold air of Fimbul Winter froze the ground, and the lurking tree roots could not break through Vilya's freezing magic. Livalaya's magic opened up a safe path for everyone. Huh, what a terrible magic. Livalaya, your magic firepower has become even more terrible after you upgraded to 4.7. Walking over from the left, Alice looked at the situation in front of her and was very moved. Thank you for the compliment. Livalaya smiled and replied. It's really a monster with 4 dragon heads. Others also came over from both sides. Finn walked while looking at the situation in front. More than 200 meters away from everyone, more than a dozen monsters with 4 heads were standing there quietly, frozen into ice sculptures. With their mouths wide open, they seemed to be releasing magic before being frozen. Although this is not bad, I missed the opportunity to hone my skills. Grace complained. No, with a crisis lurking under your feet that could erupt at any time, it's better not to have this opportunity to hone yourself. Morningstar, please find the source of these tree roots. Solve the source first, and then use the monsters on the 59th floor to hone yourself. Finn shook his head and denied. I know. Grace replied indifferently. I'm looking for it. Wait a moment. Morningstar smiled and replied. The 59th floor is very large, larger than the entire Orario, and it takes a lot of time for Morningstar's light veins to spread out. It's a bit cold. Rivalaya, the Fimbul Winter has become colder after you upgraded, even I can't stand it. Me too. Lefia, give me a pair of shoes. While Morningstar was looking for the source of the tree roots, on the other side, Dione and Diona were jumping on the ice. As Amazons, they don't like wearing shoes, but now standing on the ice created by Rivalaya, the two of them can't stand it. I'm really sorry. Livalaya apologized indifferently. Here, Dione, Santina, Lefia, the little elf, was very nimble and took out 2 pairs of shoes that she had prepared before from the backpack behind her that was bigger than her. The two took the shoes and put them on neatly. After wrapping their feet in the shoes, Dione and Diona both showed a happy expression. And at this moment, Morningstar narrowed his eyes slightly. How is it? Finn, who had been paying attention to Morningstar's reaction, noticed it at the first time. More than 10 kilometers ahead, there is a towering tree, and the roots are all from that giant tree, almost covering the entire 59th floor. The strength seems to have reached leave 7. Morningstar nodded, and then told what he had found out. Morningstar was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the tree had deceived his previous investigation. 4.7? Is there a creature of this level on the 59th floor? Finn frowned and said worriedly. I've never heard of a case where a plant can spread its roots all over the floor. Could it be another mutation? Grace also frowned. You can say it's a mutation. After all, when the Zeus family and the Hera family explored here before, this place was completely a frozen world. Leviathan followed. Well, what's the big deal? Just push through it in 10 directions. With our current strength, it's just a mere 4.7, it's nothing to worry about. Seeing the frowns on the three people's faces, Alice didn't care much and said with a smile. Although it was a bit unexpected that a monster of 4.7 level appeared, 4.7 was really not enough for their current formation. Didn't Barrel on the 49th floor get beaten up by them before? Gohano Kagaya on the side gave her a slap. Finn and the others are worried about mutations. The most terrifying thing about mutations is the unknown. No one knows what big changes will happen next. It's very troublesome. Really, Kagaya, don't knock my head. Alice is right, just push it across. Tiona agreed with what Alice said. Yes, push it across, Tiona said on the side. Finn, what do you say? Bert, with his hands in his pockets, also spoke, but he was talking to Finn. Morningstar, what do you think? Finn did not give an answer, but looked at Morningstar. In the battle, he can directly take over the battle as a commander, but in this situation, he will not act on his own, at least ask Morningstar. Although Morningstar said that he would not care about these, he is the trump card of their expedition after all. Just act according to your wishes, first solve the tree, and then deal with other monsters, and clean up the 59th floor. Morningstar smiled and nodded, then said, okay, that's it. Chapter 203, The Strange 59th Floor, The Special Towering Tree. Without any delay, everyone followed the route given by Morningstar and rushed towards the center of the 59th floor. Livalia led the way all the way. Once the Fimbul winter passed, the ground froze instantly, and the roots of the trees underground could not rush out at all. Along the way, everyone was very grateful that there was a magician named Livalia in the team who could freeze the ground. Because along the way, the intensity of the battle almost tripled. The previous battle out of the passage was very easy, but on the way to the center, the intensity of the battle suddenly increased by more than 5 or 6 times. The monsters on the 59th floor are powerful, and the frequency and number of monsters are fast and large, which can almost be said to be endless. If Morningstar did not take action, even the current all-star lineup would be very troublesome to deal with. In this case, if they have to guard against the roots of the trees underground, it will make their battle more difficult, and their desire to exercise grace through battle will become too much, and it will not work. The effect of exercise. The battle of the crowd was in full swing, thrilling, and completely entered a white-hot stage. Even Finn and Grace, facing a huge number of monsters, were also in a difficult battle. Not to mention Bert, Alicia, and others. Bert and others were injured almost every moment under the siege of monsters. Fortunately, the gate of the heaven of Morningstar was always open. Once everyone was injured, they would recover from the injury in the first time under the power of the gate of the heaven, and their physical strength and magic power would also be restored. Therefore, even if the battle was very fierce and they were always injured, everyone's faces were but there was no irritability, but full of excitement. Everyone present knew what kind of gains this situation would bring to them. In addition to conquering floors and developing new floors, another purpose of their expedition was to fight monsters of equal strength and exercise grace. Fighting fiercely with monsters, they can recover immediately after being injured, and there will be no situation where their strength decreases due to injuries. This situation is exactly what they dream of. In particular, during the battle, they can feel the grace behind them is constantly getting hot. Many adventurers in Orario cannot see their own prospects, so they will degenerate. But if they can see the prospects, as long as they are not fools, they will try their best. For adventurers, the warmth of grace behind them is the best prospect. Grace is warming, which means that their battle is effective and grace is improving. Faced with this situation, how could Bert and other adventurers who hope to improve be irritable? They are too happy to be happy. The excitement on their faces is a reflection of their inner feelings at this time. This floor must have changed again, otherwise it would never happen. Grace said with a frown, splitting the white orchid in front of him into 2 halves. It's too exaggerated. This strength is impossible for the 59th floor to have. If the 59th floor was originally this strong, the fallen fairy spirit clone at the time would never have occupied the entire floor. Finn nodded in agreement. His face was very solemn. Why bother so much? Isn't this the situation we need most? Shen chopped a giant in half from top to bottom with a knife, with a bloodthirsty expression on his face, and shouted excitedly. Oh, die. Shen excitedly waved the big double blades in her hand and shouted. That's right. Hearing Shen's words, Finn, who was fighting, was slightly stunned, and then replied with a smile. Indeed, isn't this the situation they want now? Even if he and G. Reese had just upgraded to 4.7. Under this battle intensity, his grace ability value would also increase, not to mention adventurers like Dione who were at 4.6 and 4.5. A smile flashed across everyone's eyes, and then they attacked with more force. The battle was very fierce, but Chenxing still did not attack. Chenxing was observing the monsters that kept rushing over, and killed the monsters that approached him from time to time. The largest number of these approaching demons was the 4 chimeras, and there were also flying monsters, other monsters on the ground. When using shadow to explore before, Chenxing only felt the presence of the monster's breath, and didn't know what the monsters on the 59th floor looked like. After all, shadows are different from the veins of light, and the images cannot be transmitted back through light. Now that I have encountered these monsters in person, I know where the health-preserving things of the fallen fairy spirit clone that rushed up from the fallen fairy spirit riot bed came from. They are all monsters obtained from the 59th floor. In addition to the 4 chimeras, the newly born monsters are silver white wolves, giants like Goliath, humans, huge lizards. I had never encountered these monsters on the 59th floor before, so when Chenxing encountered the fallen fairy spirit clones parasitizing these monsters, he directly regarded these monsters as monsters after the 59th floor. I didn't expect that these monsters were actually monsters on the 59th floor. Moreover, Chenxing also found other plant-type monsters, which were the same as those plant-type fallen fairy spirit clones that merged into human-shaped fallen fairy spirit clones before. Although it was surprising that these monsters were monsters on the 59th floor, Chenxing didn't pay too much attention to these monsters. Even if the strength of these monsters is as high as 4.6, Morningstar still did not take action, but continued to open the gate of heaven, because everyone was escorting him while training and improving his magic value. This time, Morningstar's goal was not these 4.5 and 4.6 monsters. Morningstar's goal was monsters above 4.7, and the number of them needed to be large, otherwise an 4.8 level existence would fight with him. Morningstar did not have much hope of training his grace in this expedition, even if a giant tree with a strength of up to 4.7 appeared on this floor. This time, Morningstar only came to open up a road to a deeper floor where monsters with strength above 4.7 would normally be born. While opening up the road, he also took his good Loki family to improve their experience. Australia family also joined later. In this situation, everyone made great progress and continued to move towards the center. However, when he was halfway there, Morningstar frowned. Is this the fruit tree shrinking its roots back? Morningstar's veins of light were always open, just like the gate to heaven. Through the veins of light, Morningstar discovered that the extremely thick tree roots under their feet were shrinking rapidly, shrinking towards the center, that is, the direction where the giant tree was. This situation puzzled Morningstar. What's wrong? Just after releasing a high-level victory sword, Leviathan found that the always calm Morningstar actually frowned, and was a little surprised, and asked, "The roots underground are shrinking towards the center, I don't know what the tree is going to do." Morningstar did not hide it and answered. Hearing this, Leviathan also frowned. "No problem, Mr. Morningstar." Leviathan also heard what Morningstar said, and suddenly became a little worried. The new 59th floor is obviously mutated, otherwise how could there be such a situation, the continuous birth of monsters? Now that this situation has occurred again, it would be strange if Leviathan is not worried. "Don't worry, it's okay, I'm keeping an eye on that guy." Chenxing stretched out his hand and patted Leviathan's head gently, smiling. Yeah, Chenxing just patted gently, and Leviathan felt relieved. Among the people she knew, no one felt more secure than Chenxing. Since Chenxing said so, she naturally believed it. Leviathan didn't say anything after hearing this, but from her frowning brows, it can be seen that Leviathan is still very worried. Oh, Chenxing didn't say much, just patted her shoulder gently. No one else noticed the conversation between the 3 people. As melee adventurers, the others were fighting fiercely at this time and had no time to pay attention to other things. Chenxing didn't speak loudly, so they naturally couldn't pay attention. Under the obstruction of many monsters, even if everyone moved all the way to the destination, it still took nearly 4 hours to reach the center. When they arrived here, no monsters were born. It's really huge. Looking at the scene in front of him, Finn couldn't help but exclaimed. The center of the 59th floor is a huge basin, and everyone is at the edge of the basin at this time. In the basin, a towering tree that is hundreds of meters high is standing quietly in the center of the basin. P.S. The 59th floor is very large. It is almost touching the ceiling. Because the 59th floor is full of dense forests, everyone didn't see the giant tree. Only Morningstar, who used the detection magic, knew the existence of the tree. Now that they came to this vicinity, everyone finally saw the true face of the tree. Not to mention the height of the tree, its trunk alone is extremely thick. Finn estimated that even if dozens of strong men joined hands to hug it, they might not be able to hug the trunk of this towering tree. Others also sighed they saw such a big tree for the 10th time. How about it, Morningstar, did you see anything? Immediately, Finn turned his head to look at Morningstar and spoke to Morningstar. Everyone, how about leaving this guy to me? Facing Finn's question, Chenxing glanced at everyone and asked back with a smile. Chenxing, do you want to do it? Hearing Chenxing's words, everyone was a little confused, and Finn asked everyone's questions. After all, Chenxing had never intended to do it before, so why did he suddenly prepare to do it? When it was Barrel before, Chenxing didn't think of intervening, so why did he do it now? This tree is very good at hiding, and it hides its breath very well. Facing everyone's questions, Chenxing did not answer, but gave a somewhat inexplicable answer to everyone. Chapter 204, Existence in the Tree. What do you mean? Everyone was puzzled by what Morningstar said, and Diona asked curiously. This tree can shrink its roots and return to itself. Its essence is to recycle its own strength, and it has a strong hiding ability. Even I was almost fooled. Morningstar said with a smile. Oh, that means the strength of this tree has become stronger. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and instantly realized what this meant. Diona said excitedly. It can make you want to fight, and the strength of this tree has been raised to another level, right? Finn narrowed his eyes slightly, and his eyes changed when he looked at the towering tree, and he murmured in a low voice. Ah, after this guy took back all the roots, his strength reached 4.8, but his hiding ability is very strong, and he didn't move, so you can't feel it. Morningstar nodded and gave an accurate answer. As soon as he finished speaking, Morningstar was a little suspicious. For some reason, Morningstar always felt that although the current situation was a bit shocking, it didn't seem to be the cause of 59 Kang's mutation. 4.8. Hearing what Chenxing said, everyone took a deep breath. 4.7 alone surprised everyone. After all, the floor they were attacking was only the 59th floor 270, and it was not a room with a floor master. The existence of a monster with 4.7 was already a very surprising situation degree. Could it be that this floor is a room where a floor master will be born? Gohano Kagaya seemed to have thought of something and murmured in a low voice. The previous floor master Barrel was 4.7, so the next floor master will definitely be 4.8. And now the giant tree in front of them was determined by Chenxing to have a strength of 4.8, and it is very likely that it is Liu Kangjin. Hearing what Gohano Kagaya said, everyone subconsciously felt that this possibility was very high. However, it was overturned by Finn the next second. It shouldn't be. According to the records of Zeus's family and Hera's family, the 59th floor was originally a frozen world. Although it is different from the current environment, it is not the room of the floor owner. 11. It should be caused by the mutation. This mutation looks very scary. Hearing Finn's words, everyone was slightly stunned, and then they thought about it and found that Finn's words made sense. Morningstar, since you want to do it, then I'll leave this guy to you. Then, Finn looked at Morningstar and said to Morningstar. Others heard it, and they had no objection. After all, Morningstar had not taken action all the way, leaving all the monsters to them, and had been protecting them, so that they could fight with all their strength without worrying about their own injuries. Now that Morningstar wants to take action, they naturally have no objection. Yeah, Morningstar nodded and agreed. Speaking of which, we have been standing here for a long time, but this tree has not made any movement at all. At this time, the elf Lefia spoke up, asking with some concern. There were so many of them in front of them, but the enemy did not make any movement, which seemed a little wrong. Indeed, the big guy in front of us has been confirmed to be an enemy, but he did not make any movement, and I don't know what he is planning. Finn nodded in agreement. Others also agreed, and their eyes became solemn as they looked at the giant tree. Morningstar, let Livalia test it. Then, Finn looked at Morningstar. No, I will just do it directly, you can just watch from the side. Morningstar shook his head and said with a faint smile. As soon as the voice fell, Morningstar's figure disappeared in full view of everyone. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then quickly looked in the direction of the giant tree. Everyone's eyesight was very strong, and they easily saw the figure of Morningstar. They saw that Morningstar, who had just disappeared, had appeared in the deep pit at this time, and was slowly walking towards the direction of the giant tree. 4.8 battle? I'm really looking forward to it. I heard that Morningstar defeated the fallen fairy clone whose strength reached 4.8 after fusion, but I haven't seen it with my own eyes. Now I can witness it with my own eyes. Looking at Morningstar walking below, Onyi was a little excited. Yeah, Diona nodded repeatedly. The others were also full of expectations at this time. Beside Diona, Isai looked at the back of Morningstar walking. Her eyes flickered slightly. I don't know how long it will take me to catch up with him. If I have such a strong strength as Morningstar, then the Black Dragon. It seems that because the battle just now was too intense, the dungeon could not produce new monsters for a while. Finn and others stood on the edge for so long and no new monsters appeared to attack them. Of course, it may also be because of the towering tree in front of them. At the bottom of the pit, Morningstar walked towards the giant tree in front of him, with slow steps, not like he was going to fight at all, but like he was taking a walk. The Morningstar had no hostility at this time, but the towering tree opposite seemed to sense a sense of crisis. The roots, which were several times thicker than before and almost as big as the trunk of a century-old tree, rushed out from the ground, densely packed, and spun the Morningstar to bombard it. Swish! The long sword at the waist was unsheathed, and the sharp sword light flashed by. The tree roots, which were as big as the century-old tree, broke into pieces and turned into giant pieces of wood, falling from the air. However, the next second, streams of emerald green liquid dripped from these wood pieces. There were many giant wooden blocks, and the amount of liquid dripping down was also huge, covering Morningstar like a wave. At the edge of the deep pit, everyone looked at this scene and took a breath of cold air. These emerald green liquids were very dangerous at first glance. The first thought that came to everyone's mind was venom. Some people also thought of the corrosive liquid sprayed by the new worm monsters that were destroyed before. However, no matter which one it was a very dangerous attack. Morningstar was also a little surprised. I didn't expect that there were these things in these tree roots. The tree roots that attacked them before didn't have such things. However, although it was an accident, Morningstar didn't panic at all. The death flames on his swollen fingers shook, and the death box hanging on his waist shook slightly, and an orange-red flame rushed out and fell on Morningstar's shoulders. A childish roar resounded, and the powerful death flames rose to the sky like a fan. In an instant, the overwhelming liquid was completely petrified, and then quickly shattered. With a breeze, all the stone chips scattered in all directions. Oh, it's Natsu. At the edge of the deep pit, Diona was extremely excited when she saw Natsu standing on Morningstar's shoulder, and shouted loudly. The other female adventurers in the team also smiled. Girls have no resistance to these cute creatures. When Morningstar was with them, she would often let Natsu out. After a while, everyone knew about Natsu's existence and loved him very much. Alice and the other two only knew about Natsu after the expedition began, but they soon became friends with Natsu. Under the deep pit, Morningstar still walked towards the towering tree slowly. Along the way, the thick and strong tree roots kept rushing out of the ground and attacking Morningstar. Although the attacks continued, the attack method was very simple, no different from before, as if it was repeating machine movements, as if it just wanted to stop Morningstar's progress. Faced with such useless attacks, Morningstar casually waved the long sword in his hand and easily destroyed these attacks. However, Morningstar discovered one thing. Hestia's sword can't keep up with my current situation. It seems that I need to find a way to strengthen this weapon. After destroying this giant tree, let's see if I can find some good ore. Looking at the long sword in his hand, Morningstar murmured in his heart. Immediately, Morningstar looked at the towering tree in front of him, a little suspicious. The attack just now was very strong, but it didn't look like an attack that should have an 4.8 level. It was at most 4.7 level. This puzzled Morningstar. Is this giant tree in front of him really an 4.8 level monster? His exploration should be fine. Shadow magic is not good at collecting pictures, but it is a good hand at collecting breath. I did feel the aura of Leviathan from this tree. But, what is going on now? Not only Chenxing was confused, but Finn and others at the edge of the deep pit were also confused. They naturally saw that although the attack of the towering tree was powerful, it was actually just that. As long as they had the combat power of level 4.7, they should be able to resist it, which was not the power of level 4.8. However, at this moment, a 4.6 loud and clear sound suddenly resounded throughout the 59th floor. Boom! In the deep pit, Chenxing couldn't figure out what was going on with the towering tree. He was about to launch a thunderous offensive and start to destroy the towering tree. Suddenly, he heard this loud drum sound, and the action he was about to move was paused. The drum sound did not stop. After the first sound, the second sound sounded 2 seconds later, followed by the third, fourth, and fifth sounds. The sound coming from the tree in front of me. This sound doesn't sound like a pulse, but more like a heartbeat. Chenxing listened carefully for a few times and finally came to a conclusion. A tree actually has a heartbeat. Does this tree have a heart? Chenxing narrowed his eyes and murmured in a low voice. However, as soon as the voice fell, Chenxing denied this guess himself. No, it shouldn't be. It seems that this tree is not the real body. There seems to be something inside the tree. Murmuring in a low voice, Chenxing quickly spread the veins of light and shadows together, covering the towering tree in an instant. Roar! Just at the moment when Chenxing's 2 major detection magics covered the past, a loud roar resounded throughout the 59th floor. The loud roar resounded throughout the entire floor. Because the sound was too loud, Finn and others couldn't help but cover their ears. What happened? Diona covered her ears and said with a painful expression. I don't know, but it's definitely not caused by that tree. This roar sounds a bit like a dragon. Beside her, Dione also covered her ears at this time, with a struggling expression. The roar was too strong, their ears couldn't stand it, and they needed time to adapt. The others were the same at this time, with struggling expressions. It's a dragon. At this time, Finn's voice suddenly rang out. As soon as these words came out, everyone's eyes instantly fell on the towering tree. Everyone was shocked at this sight. I saw that the originally intact tree trunk now had a huge gap, and 2 black dragon claws were lying on the edge of the gap. 10 ferocious black dragon heads were slowly stretching out of the gap. Is this tree just a shell? Seeing this scene, Grace couldn't help but say the thought that suddenly popped up in his mind. This looks. Livalia's pupils shrank slightly at this time, and she murmured unconsciously. Black dragon. Beside it, AIC's pupils shrank, her hands pressed on her waist, and the angel wings behind her had unconsciously emerged. Her face was full of anger and struggle, and she was obviously trying her best to restrain herself. Everyone was shocked by AIC's reaction. They didn't expect AIC's reaction to be so intense. After the black dragon head stretched out from the tree hole, it roared again to the sky, as if announcing its own birth. The loud roar turned into an invisible 26 shock wave that swept out in all directions, causing the space to tremble, the earth to crack, and Morningstar's feet to fall. The ground below exploded directly. However, Morningstar stood quietly without any panic. A pair of wings of light appeared behind him, and his feet stepped into the void. The powerful shock wave not only swept the deep pit, but also spread to the ground. Finn and others also found the attack of this invisible shock wave, and their faces were solemn. Is the dungeon preparing to give birth to another black dragon? Looking at the black and ferocious dragon head emerging from the trunk of the towering tree under the deep pit, Finn's face was extremely ugly. The 3 major commissions, the one-eyed black dragon, have not been eliminated yet, and now there is another monster that is obviously related to the black dragon. They have not seen the black dragon with their own eyes, but they have seen the portrait of the black dragon left by the hero who returned at that time. The black dragon in front of them is 8 times similar to the black dragon in the portrait left by the hero at that time. This undoubtedly told Finn that the black dragon in front of him has a deep connection with the one-eyed black dragon. I don't know, but this black dragon can't be compared with the one-eyed black dragon. Morningstar can handle it, it's not a big deal. Grace's face was also very solemn, shaking her head and said. Although she was shocked that a weakened black dragon appeared on the 59th floor, Grace was not panicked. The black dragon in front of them looked very powerful, but it was still within their range of handling. Even if Morningstar did not take action, with their current ZEGE lineup, they could also deal with this black dragon, but they would have to pay some price. Yeah. Finn nodded, hummed, and then stopped talking, staring at the situation below. Ace, calm down, this black dragon will be handled by Morningstar. Beside Ace, Livalia grabbed Ace, who was full of violent aura, ready to rush down at any time, and comforted her softly. I know. Ace murmured in a low voice, forcing her breath to calm down. Her target has always been the black dragon. As long as she encounters something related to the black dragon, she can't control her emotions. But now this black dragon is designated by Morningstar. Even if she hates the black dragon, she can barely control her hatred. Because she knows that Morningstar also needs enemies as her opponents to grow. They have gained a lot along the way, and they can't be willful. The roar gradually stopped, and the shock wave gradually dissipated. At the edge of the deep pit, everyone was silent, looking down with a solemn expression. In the deep pit, Morningstar looked at the black dragon in front of him with a strange look in his eyes. This dragon in front of him, Morningstar had seen it before. There was a very similar one, the Nidhogg on the 10th floor of the artificial maze. However, at that time, Nidhogg was fused with the fallen fairy orb, and a huge change occurred, with half of its body mutated. The black dragon in front of him was exactly what it should have been. The original book said that the carrier of the later Nidhogg was a black dragon species from the same source as the one-eyed black dragon. The one in front of him was the same. When Chenxing was looking at the black dragon in front of him, the black dragon that had already announced its birth also lowered its head, and its scarlet eyes stared at Chenxing's position, staring at Chenxing. Neither the man nor the dragon made any move, just staring quietly. After a moment, Chenxing broke the stare. What does the dungeon want to do? Chenxing murmured in a low voice, looking at the black dragon in front of him. The next second, Morningstar flashed, soared into the sky, and rushed towards the black dragon. At the moment when Morningstar moved, the black dragon in the gap of the towering tree also moved. The two ferocious claws suddenly swelled several times, and the two claws pressed hard on the tree trunk. The next moment, the black dragon turned into a stream of light and shot towards Morningstar. Bang! At the moment when the black dragon disappeared, a terrifying explosion sounded from the towering tree, and a terrifying sonic boom cloud exploded from the gap in the tree trunk. The towering tree, which originally had a huge hole in the tree, was completely cut in half at this moment. The middle area of the tree trunk was completely destroyed, and the huge upper body slowly fell behind. So strong. Looking at this scene, Finn and others on the edge of the deep pit all had a look on their faces. Remind such a huge towering tree, it was cut in half just like that. If it were them, they would never be able to do it. If this force falls on them, they may explode directly. Is this 4.8? Finn frowned and muttered in his heart. However, there is no time for him to think about this now, because the collision between Morningstar and Black Dragon has already happened. In the deep pit, Morningstar's figure collided with the huge black dragon, and a shocking explosion sounded throughout the floor. The powerful shock wave spread out in circles in all directions, which was even more terrifying than the roar of the black dragon before. Fortunately, Finn and others had just been baptized by the roar of the black dragon, so no matter how loud the explosion was this time, they were not affected as before. However, the impact of the shock wave was still there. The powerful shock wave spread out in circles to the outside world, and even Finn was pushed a few meters towards the store under the impact of the continuous shock wave. It's really terrible. Grace put down his hand that was blocking him and said unconsciously. Everyone else agreed, only Shin was concerned about something different. What a powerful impact. Morningstar has not even entered the previous state and is so powerful. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. Yes, they all knew that Morningstar had the combat power of 4.8. He had previously destroyed a fallen fairy clone with a strength of 4.8 after fusion. This was the words of the gods, and the gods learned it through the gods' mirror. In their hearts, Morningstar should have gone all out to destroy the fallen fairy clone. And they have always been very clear that Morningstar's all-out efforts are the reincarnation I mode and the super dead air mode. But now, Chenxing has not entered that mode at all. Without entering this mode, he can deal with the black dragon of 4.8. 313. Then Chenxing has entered the powerful mode before. Isn't his strength even stronger? Could it be that Chenxing's strength has reached V.97? Everyone's speculation has nothing to do with Chenxing. At this time, Chenxing has fought with the black dragon born from the towering giant tree. The two turned into two black and white streams of light, flying and colliding at the bottom of the pit. The shock wave generated by the collision continued to spread to the outside world. Yes, this is it. This is the opponent I need. After another collision, Chenxing flapped the wings of light behind him and retreated backwards, looking at the black dragon in front of him who was also retreating. Chenxing did not enter the reincarnation I mode and super death mode, but just used the normal state to fight the black dragon in front of him. After just a few simple collisions, Chenxing realized that the black dragon in front of him was the opponent he needed now to improve his grace ability value. The strength of the black dragon in front of him was even weaker than his normal state, but Chenxing now wanted to find it is already very difficult to be an opponent, so naturally he will not despise it for this reason. Chenxing now only wants to use this black dragon to fight fiercely and improve his grace. As long as the grace on his back is hot, the rest will be put in a basket. Chenxing will not kill this black dragon easily. Chenxing will squeeze out all the value of this black dragon, leaving nothing. However, I don't know how much this black dragon can do. I don't know if it can be like the previous fusion of the fallen fairy spirit clone, and directly increase my ability value in one battle. Nongxing muttered in his heart, and his figure paused. The next second, Chenxing turned into a stream of light again and rushed towards the black dragon. The black dragon did the same, forcibly stopping its huge body, and the wings behind it fanned the wind and rushed towards Chenxing. However, this time the black dragon's attack seemed a little wrong, and another color appeared in the scarlet eyes. Magic. Chapter 206, Black Dragon's Special Abilities. As the black dragon's scarlet eyes showed other colors, an invisible wave spread out in all directions. Although the wave was invisible, Chenxing could feel it. Chenxing instinctively released defensive magic, but this wave directly penetrated Chenxing's defensive magic and passed through Chenxing's body. Unable to defend. With this thought, the long sword in Chenxing's hand collided with the black dragon's huge and sharp claws again. Neither of them held back, and the powerful collision caused one person and one dragon to fly backwards. As expected, the black dragon flew farther than Chenxing, and when Chenxing stopped, the black dragon was still flying backwards. Chenxing did not take the opportunity to attack, but felt the changes in his body. Chenxing did not think that the invisible wave released by the black dragon just now was useless. However, Chenxing explored himself for a long time, but still could not find out what was going on. This puzzled Chenxing. But the next second, Chenxing heard a series of terrified screams. Morningstar naturally knew who these voices were from. It was Finn and the others. Morningstar looked over at the first moment, only to see Finn and the others holding their heads and screaming, their voices full of fear. Seeing this scene, some memories of his previous life instantly emerged in Morningstar's mind. This is the ability of the one-eyed black dragon, the special ability that made both the hero and the tyrant frightened and screamed miserably. The one-eyed black dragon has a very special ability, which is a buff. As long as you face the one-eyed black dragon head-on, you will feel fear. Even the hero and the tyrant, who are as strong as 4.8, are still affected by this buff. When fighting the black dragon, they are extremely frightened and scream miserably, and their strength is sharply reduced. The current situation of Finn and the others is obviously the same as that of the hero and the tyrant. Now Morningstar is completely sure that the black dragon in front of him has a very deep connection with the one-eyed black dragon, and it is definitely another black dragon born in the dungeon. Morningstar didn't know why another black dragon was born in the dungeon, but the black dragon in front of him was obviously not comparable to the one-eyed black dragon, and its strength was only 4.8. Of course, it might be that the three commissions were at this level when they were born, and then they slowly rose like the enhanced species. But why doesn't it have any effect on me? With this thought in mind, Morningstar temporarily left the black dragon behind and flew towards Finn and others. The buff of the one-eyed black dragon makes people who face it unconsciously feel fear, and this fear is very deep. Even the experienced existences of heroes and tyrants can't resist it, and they screamed without image. The buff of the black dragon in front of him is also like this, and the situation of Finn and others has been confirmed. Let's not talk about Ace and others for now, but Finn, Grace and Livalia have been adventurers for decades. They are experienced adventurers, and their hearts have long been tempered to be extremely tough and will not be affected by external things. But under the ability of the black dragon, it still appeared in such an ugly state. To put it bluntly, the tenacity of his inner will is not comparable to that of Finn and others, but it is not affected by the black dragon's ability at all. Is it because my strength is stronger than this new black dragon, and Finn and others are weaker than the black dragon? Morningstar murmured while flying. The next second, Morningstar landed in front of Finn and others. With a wave of his hand, a gentle light fell on everyone, calming them down a little. This is a kind of auxiliary light magic created by Morningstar to calm the heart, which can keep people calm. However, it seems that this buff effect is not very good when facing the black dragon. I will find a way to improve it after returning. You all should withdraw and don't stay around here. This black dragon has the ability to make people feel scared, and you will only be affected here. After seeing Finn and others slightly regain the ability to think, Morningstar did not delay and quickly instructed everyone. I understand. Everyone, get out of here. Finn didn't hesitate at all. He looked at the huge figure that turned into a stream of light and rushed over from the deep pit, and turned to say to everyone. After that, Finn quickly rushed out in the opposite direction of the deep pit. Others didn't hesitate at all and quickly followed. Just a few seconds after everyone ran out, the black dragon had already flown out of the deep pit and appeared behind Morningstar. The huge figure covered the sky and covered Morningstar. Roar! The violent roar resounded throughout the entire floor again, and the black dragon spewed out extremely blazing flames from its mouth, pouring down towards Morningstar like an overwhelming force. The surrounding air began to distort, and waves of heat continued to spread. Natsu, who had been standing firmly on Morningstar's shoulder, roared directly with a big sky flame. The blazing flame instantly turned into grey-white stone, and then quickly annihilated. Dift, and Morningstar's attack followed. One man and one dragon fought again. The shock wave that had just subsided for a few seconds reappeared on the 59th floor. On the other side, Finn and others quickly left the vicinity of the deep pit and came to a cliff a few kilometers away. That's right, that black dragon is definitely from the same source as the one-eyed black dragon. The situation just now is a unique ability of the one-eyed black dragon. The Zeus family and the Hera family were defeated by this ability of the one-eyed black dragon. Standing on the edge of the cliff, Finn looked at the two streams of light, one black and one white, entangled and colliding in front of him, and said with lingering fear, "Ah, the information left by the hero is indeed like this. The fear in my heart is unreasonable, and I can't concentrate on fighting at all. No matter how much I suppress it, I still can't help it. The fear in my heart materializes into a shrill scream." Leviathan also nodded solemnly and said, "And I remember that the scales of the black dragon seem to be immune to most magic spells. This is also the reason why the Zeus family and the Hera family prepared a large number of magic swords, but they couldn't work. As the most powerful magician at the time, Althea could only become a marginal role." As soon as Leviathan finished speaking, Grace spoke up. "What a foul, this ability. With Morningstar in front, and that black dragon doesn't seem to be a match for Morningstar, we shouldn't be afraid at all." Shin grabbed her hair in annoyance and complained. "That's right." Tiona nodded in agreement. "Morningstar doesn't seem to be affected by the black dragon's special ability." Gohano Kagaya also spoke at this time, but she was concerned about the situation on Morningstar. "Indeed, Morningstar doesn't look afraid at all." Alicia nodded, looking solemn. "We must find a way to deal with this situation. This time, Mr. Morningstar is here, so there is no problem, but what about next time? Mr. Morningstar can't always be with us. What if?" Lu frowned and said his thoughts very seriously. As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent. Because what Lu said made sense. Especially Finn and the other two. They knew a long time ago that the one-eyed black dragon had such a special ability, and they have been thinking about how to solve it for more than 10 years. But how could this special ability be so easy to crack? The black dragon's ability is closely related to the mind, and it is also very unreasonable. They have no clue at all. Even if they knew about this ability more than 10 years ago, it still didn't work. Otherwise, there wouldn't be that ugly look just now. "Finn, do you think the private mercenaries of the god Uranus can deal with this special ability?" At this time, Leviathan thought of the existence of Fells. "I don't know, I'll ask next time." Finn shook his head and said, "The god Uranus has private mercenaries, which they have known for a long time, but they have only come into contact with them recently, and have never come into contact with them before. Well, let's ask them after we go back this time. Morningstar is not affected, so he should have some insights. Let's ask him later." Dell. "Speaking of which, no new monsters have attacked us along the way. It seems that this level is like this for the time being, and no new monsters should be born in the short term. Well, sometimes the dungeon will also be tiring." The conversation ended here, and everyone's eyes fell on the battlefield again. Standing on the edge of the cliff, AIC's golden eyes stared at the battlefield, staring at the two figures, one large and one small, that kept colliding in the field. She wanted to witness this battle completely, because she was prepared to deal with the one-eyed black dragon in the future. It can be confirmed that the black dragon, Qian Yozhao, in front of her is the same as the one-eyed black dragon, so its abilities should be the same. Now that we know it clearly, it will be easier to deal with the one-eyed black dragon in the future. It is even possible to observe the black dragon in front of us and obtain the weakness of the one-eyed black dragon. While everyone was staring at the battlefield, the small crystal ball hanging on AIC's waist was emitting a barely detectable light. On the ground, in the underground altar of the guild headquarters, Uranus and Phils were quietly. Everyone looked at the scene through the crystal ball, and no one spoke. After a while, Fels broke the silence. "Uranus, do you know what's going on?" "I don't know." Uranus's answer was simple and clear, but his face was very gloomy at this time. He didn't expect that a new black dragon would be born in the dungeon. "You know, the one-eyed black dragon caused terrible damage to the ground, almost plowing the ground, which was a natural disaster, and then ran to the end of the world to sleep. But now, another one was born in the dungeon. What is the dungeon going to do?" Thinking of this, Uranus's divine power, which has always been maintained, became stronger. Under this divine power, the entire dungeon trembled slightly, and a faint wail sounded in the dark. Chapter 207, Tempering, Separate Actions, and the Resurrected Giant Tree. "Uranus, did that guy notice it?" In the 59th floor, Morningstar, who was fighting, felt the fluctuation of divine power in the dungeon and was a little surprised. Under normal circumstances, there would be no fluctuation of divine power in the dungeon, because Uranus's divine power has always been maintained at a stable intensity. Now that the fluctuation of divine power is felt in the dungeon, it means that Uranus's emotions have fluctuated. At this time, Uranus has emotional fluctuations, and Morningstar feels that there is no other choice except the matter of the black dragon. Is it Fels's prop? Someone in the team has Fels's remote monitoring magic prop? Although it was a little unexpected, Morningstar did not think too much about this issue. With force on his waist, Morningstar spun and kicked the dragon claw of the attacking black dragon. The next second, the black dragon turned into a gyroscope and flew out at a high speed under the powerful force. However, Morningstar was not feeling well either. Before flying out, the black dragon roared directly at Morningstar. Under the close-range roar, even Natsu could not react in time and could not use the sky flame to petrify the black dragon's attack in time. However, Morningstar himself used defensive magic in time. Bang! A muffled sound followed by a shattering sound, and the defensive magic released by Morningstar exploded directly under the roar of the black dragon. The powerful impact of the explosion blew Morningstar away. Even Morningstar could not ignore this level of impact. Without igniting the death flame, he could not stabilize his body at all, and the whole person burst out directly. However, the next second, Morningstar turned into a stream of light and rushed back. The same was true for the black dragon kicked away by Morningstar on the other side. The two collided again in an instant. One black and one white stream of light kept wandering and colliding throughout the 59th floor, and the entire 59,033rd floor became a battlefield for one man and one dragon. Bang, 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 bang. The deafening explosion sounded continuously in the 59th floor, and the powerful shock wave continued to destroy the space of the 59th floor. Every time the shock wave spread out, there would be a slight ripple in the space of the 59th floor, as if it would break at any time. It was enough to show how powerful the shock wave caused by the collision between a man and a dragon was, and even the space could not bear it. In other words, the battlefield of a man and a dragon was in midair. If it was on the ground, the destroyer Zagnath would have been born again in the dungeon at this time. After all, the aftermath of the battle between the two was so terrible. Of course, even if the battlefield between the two was in the air, the ground was still devastated beyond measure. There was no good ground on the entire 59th floor, and there were potholes everywhere. Finn and others retreated all the way from the edge of the cliff a few thousand meters away from the battlefield at the beginning, and had retreated to the entrance of the passage from the 58th floor to the 59th floor. The 59th floor has completely become their playground. Standing at the entrance of the passage with a spear, Finn sighed slightly as he looked at the two streams of light that kept colliding in the air in the distance. The 58th floor is very large, at least several times the size of Orario, but now, the battle between Morningstar and Black Dragon directly occupies the entire 59th floor. One man and one dragon were at the edge of the west wall 1 second ago, and the next second they might appear at the edge of the north wall, or come to the center of the 59th floor. Such a large distance span shocked everyone present. Finn and others could not imagine that the speed of the Japanese man and the dragon would be so fast. If it were them, let alone changing places within a second, being able to run a few hundred meters would be very good. Among them, AIC's speed is the fastest, because AISI now has the ability of space type and can use space transfer. But under normal circumstances, AIC's space transfer is only a distance of about 1,000 meters at a time. Unlike Morningstar and Black Dragon, who can cross thousands of meters in 1 second with just the speed of their physical bodies. This is simply a fantasy. Everything that happened before their eyes made everyone present feel that they were not in the same dimension at all. Even if they upgraded to 4.8, they would never be able to do what Morningstar did. I feel a little desperate. I can't catch up at all. Standing next to Finn, Alice put one hand on her waist, and her mouth twitched slightly. Although she had heard a lot about Morningstar from Liu's mouth when she was just resurrected, and knew that Morningstar was a monster used by monsters. But she really didn't expect Morningstar to be so monstrous. It's completely 2 dimensions. She probably can't do it in her life. When the others heard this, they all nodded unconsciously. In fact, they themselves couldn't imagine what it would be like if they could achieve this. Speaking of which, are we just going to sit here and watch? At this time, Grace spoke and said to everyone, "What else can we do?" Hearing this, Finn asked back. Now they really have no way out except staying here. Could they go back to the 58th floor? I observed when I retreated just now. The ability of the Black Dragon seems to have limitations and the range is not large. If we follow the wall, the ability of the Black Dragon should not affect us. While Morningstar is using the Black Dragon to refine the Grace, let's find a passage that uses up the 60th floor. Grace shook his head and then said his proposal. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other, and then looked at the 2 streams of light that kept flashing and colliding in front of them, causing a huge explosion. After thinking for a while, everyone voted unanimously and agreed to Grace's proposal. Judging from the situation of the battle between Morningstar and the Black Dragon just now, they didn't get close to the edge of the wall. It should be okay to be careful. You can't just stand here and watch and do nothing. Then, the group began to search for the passage leading to the $0 layer, CGCH, along the wall. Morningstar's light veins were always open, and he discovered the actions of Finn and others at the first time. After a slight turn of thought, he understood Finn and others' plan, and directly cooperated with Finn and others, not approaching the position where Finn and others were. Black Dragon seems to have nothing special except buff. At most, it can release various attribute magic, and its physique is stronger, which can be immune to most magic, but there seems to be nothing else. After understanding Finn and others' plans, Morningstar put most of his energy into the battle, and while fighting with the Black Dragon, Morningstar silently said, "In the battle with the Black Dragon, Morningstar used the Black Dragon as a stepping stone, so he didn't use his full strength. At the same time, he also wanted to see what the Black Dragon was capable of, because he was preparing to deal with the Black Dragon at the end of the world in the future. But after fighting for a while, Morningstar found that the Black Dragon seemed to have no other power except that special buff. It used magic and had a strong physique, which was no different from other monsters. However, if Finn and others knew what Morningstar was thinking, they would definitely regard Morningstar as a Versailles person. After all, the magic power of the Black Dragon was stronger than that of Leviathan, and the trapped soul was also extremely terrifying. No matter which one it was far beyond the adventurers like them. Adventurers relied on physique and magic to fight. The physique was extremely strong and could be immune to most magic, and its own magic firepower was also terrifying. Both were so strong, did they need other things to set off? Of course, Finn and others didn't know what Morningstar was thinking. At this time, Finn and others also found that Morningstar noticed them. Because the battle between Morningstar and the Black Dragon deliberately deviated from their location, they all saw this. Morningstar knows our plan, don't worry about being affected. Everyone hurry up and find the passage as soon as possible. Finn encouraged everyone. Everyone didn't say anything, just nodded slightly, and then silently quickened their pace and started looking. In the 59th floor, the deafening explosion sound still echoed, and the shock wave has become the norm. Morningstar has given up using the long sword and switched to using the Vongola gloves to fight. There is no way, the sword of Tia can't keep up with the current battle intensity. Even the immortal weapon can't hold up. Just like the damage caused to the Sword of Despair by AISI combining the Wind Spirit Sprint and the Revenge Princess in the original book. Morningstar has decided that after returning from this expedition, he will go to Chun to see if he can strengthen his weapons. In theory, the weapons of Zeus's family and Hera's family can keep up with their level at the beginning, and they should be able to keep up now. If it really doesn't work, then Morningstar can only fight with fists in the future. Looking at the huge dragon species charging head-on, Chenxing swung his fist and punched it with the Sun Fist. Boom! The explosion was earth-shaking, and Inhui behind him kept getting hot. It's been an hour since the battle began, and the frequency of Inhui's fever has been gradually decreasing. At this frequency, it's estimated that it won't last half an hour. He punched again, feeling the heat on his back, and muttered in his heart. However, the next second, Chenxing suddenly discovered something and frowned slightly. Still alive? Shouldn't that tree be a shell? Just now, the shadow that Chenxing had been spreading suddenly felt the pulsation coming from the towering tree that gave birth to the Black Dragon before, which was the pulsation of plants. In other words, the towering tree that was broken into two pieces was still alive. No, the breath is getting stronger quickly. There's something wrong with that tree. Just as Chenxing was thinking about what was going on, Chenxing suddenly felt that the breath of the towering tree that gave birth to the Black Dragon was getting stronger quickly, almost skyrocketing. In just a few seconds, the aura of the towering tree recovered and then stepped into the V.8 level again. Feeling this, Chenxing's pupils shrank slightly. What on earth is this? Chapter 208, The Giant Tree That Penetrates the Floor. Not only did Morningstar discover it, but Finn and others who were looking for the passage also noticed it. Because the towering tree had no intention of hiding itself when it resurrected this time, its breath was very obvious, and it was completely declaring its existence openly. How is it possible? Feeling the breath of the towering tree reviving, Finn shouted unconsciously. That was a monster of level 8, not some cat or dog, and its body was clearly destroyed before. But now it has revived, and it looks like it has completely recovered. Others were also extremely shocked at this time, looking towards the center of the floor one by one. And at this moment, Leviathan suddenly had a flash of inspiration in her mind and understood something. I was careless. That tree is not one with the Black Dragon, Leviathan said solemnly. As soon as these words came out, everyone reacted. Once the monsters in the dungeon die, they will turn directly into ashes. Just now, the Black Dragon appeared and mercilessly cut the towering tree in half. Everyone thought that the towering tree was just a nursery for the Black Dragon and was the same entity as the Black Dragon. Therefore, the towering tree that was cut in half did not disappear like other monsters, and everyone did not find it strange. After all, the Black Dragon did not die, but now it seems that this is a plan of the Black Dragon and the towering tree to cover up the truth. Although it is not known why the towering tree can do it, during the time when the Black Dragon and the Morning Star were fighting, the Qin tree must have been recovering quietly. More than an hour later, the towering tree completely recovered from its own injuries, recovered again, and even recovered its strength. What should we do? Grace frowned and turned to Finn and asked. If it was just a Black Dragon, then they could safely leave it to the Morning Star. But now there is another plant-type monster of the same level as the Black Dragon. Can the Morning Star deal with it alone? Do you want to go over to help? Bert stood up and said. Contact Morning Star and ask Morning Star to find a way to split the battlefield. Let's go deal with the tree. Leviathan also spoke. Others also spoke up and prepared to provide support. Don't worry, Morning Star has always been in normal state and has not entered that special mode. Morning Star should be able to deal with it alone. Even if it can't be dealt with, Morning Star will choose to retreat. Morning Star has always been cautious and will not fight a battle that he is not sure of. Maybe, this is what Morning Star wants now. Besides, at this level, it is not difficult to control the battlefield. The Black Dragon and the tree are very intelligent beings at first glance. They may have the same wisdom as us. If we want to split the battlefield, they probably won't let it go. If we take action, it will still be exhausting. Besides, my thumb tells me that we are not in danger. Finn bit his thumb, muttered in a low voice, and expressed his thoughts. Finn's previous words did not reassure the people present, but the last sentence made everyone feel relieved. Everyone present knew the situation of Finn's warning finger. Once in danger, Finn's finger will feel very strong pain, and sometimes even spasm. Now Finn does not have this situation, which means that the problem is not big. Finn has no need to lie in this situation. But, always be prepared. If Morningstar really falls into a disadvantage, then use the communication orb to contact Morningstar, let Morningstar find a way to divide the battlefield, and we will take action. Seeing the reactions of the crowd, Finn hesitated for a moment, then said. He was very confident in the early warning ability of his finger, but he did know if there would be any unexpected events. Everyone nodded, no objection. The search for the passage stopped, and Finn and others began to watch the battle again. On the other side, on the battlefield, after a brief surprise, Morningstar's mouth slightly raised an arc. Just now, I was still thinking that using the Black Dragon to train Grace would gradually reduce the effect. I didn't expect that a Leave 8 monster would appear again now. I'm really lucky. As soon as the thought fell, Morningstar's light veins saw an extremely thick tree root rising into the sky and rushing towards him. Morningstar's eyes twitched suddenly. Such a tricky attack angle, if it wasn't for using you to train Grace, it would definitely ignite the death energy and kill you. Thinking of this, Morningstar flashed and instantly avoided the fatal blow of the tree root. However, as soon as he stabilized, the attack of the Black Dragon followed. The overwhelming flames covered most of the sky, covering it like waves. Morningstar waved his hand, and the violent light exploded instantly and spread directly upwards. The collision of flames and light caused the terrifying magic element to explode in midair. The Black Dragon rushed out of the magic element riot, and its giant claws flashing with cold light grabbed Morningstar, and the weather was shocked. At the same time, a thick tree root appeared again under Morningstar, rising into the sky. One dragon and one tree directly sealed the moving space of Morningstar. Faced with this situation, Morningstar was not panicked at all, but raised a smile at the corner of his mouth again. Come on, 1 is not enough, 2 is just right. My resources for upgrading to 4.7 will fall on you. It must be said that the siege of 4.8s was really a bit stressful for Morningstar, who was only in ordinary state, especially since the giant tree below was still a stunner. However, although Morningstar complained, he was still very satisfied with it in his heart. Because under the siege of the Black Dragon and the giant tree, the frequency of the heat on Morningstar's back, which had slowed down a lot, became faster again. What was there for Morningstar to be dissatisfied with in this situation? It was estimated that in the current situation, in another hour or two, his grace ability value would be maxed out. However, due to the increased pressure, Morningstar focused almost all of his 9th level of concentration on the battle, and even withdrew his detection magic. Therefore, Morningstar did not notice anything wrong on the ground. Instead, Livalia on the ground felt something. Finn, something is not right. The ground has been shaking. Livalia expressed her feelings. What did you notice? Hearing Livalia's words, Finn narrowed his eyes and asked. The tree attacks with its roots. In this case, it is inevitable that the ground will shake. But the spiritual power I have been spreading out tells me that the vibration frequency of the ground does not match the attack frequency of the giant tree. The ground is shaking almost every moment. The tree is probably planning something. Livalia nodded and said. Although she does not have a powerful detection magic like Morningstar, she will often spread her spiritual power to sense the surrounding situation. Therefore, she found that the vibration on the ground is a bit wrong. It really is. Hearing Livalia's words, everyone was stunned. The elf Lefiya followed Livalia and spread her spiritual power. After carefully sensing it, she found that it was really the same as Livalia said, the vibration frequency was wrong. If Livalia was the only one who felt this way, then now Lefiya also felt this, then the matter can be confirmed to be 9 layers. Lefiya, find a way to explore the situation under the ground. Finn ordered Lefiya. I'll try my best, Captain. Lefiya responded seriously, and then quickly released magic. Lefiya also knows the magic of light veins, which she learned from Morningstar. Lefiya's mental power is very strong, and so is her magic power, but she can't squander it as casually as Morningstar. Moreover, she has only learned this magic for a short time and doesn't master it very well. So she rarely uses this magic in battle, and sometimes she uses it in a small range. But this is not the time to save mental power and magic power. Invisible ripples spread out, and Lefiya deliberately spread the light veins to the direction of the towering tree, forming a straight line. The 59th floor is very large, and the location of Finn and others is at the edge. Lefiya spent more than 2 minutes to spread the light veins to the location of the Quanmoken tree. This distance is dozens of kilometers away, and Lefiya's forehead has been sweating a lot. You can imagine the consumption of this magic team Lefiya. It has spread. I will check the situation now, Lefiya said to everyone, and then she began to concentrate on sensing the situation under the towering tree. Everyone did not disturb Lefiya and waited quietly. Lefiya also continued to spread the veins of light to the ground under the towering tree. However, Lefiya spread the veins of light downward for dozens of meters, but still did not notice anything wrong. Lefiya discovered one thing. That is, the roots of the towering tree are really solid and rooted so deep in the ground. Although it was unexpected, Leviathan did not pay too much attention here, and continued to extend and explore. However, after spreading the veins of light downward for more than 100 meters, Zhuya's face changed. What's wrong? Everyone has been paying attention to Leviathan, and when they saw Leviathan's face change, they asked hurriedly, "Captain, the roots of that tree penetrated the 59th floor and entered the 60th floor." Leviathan heard Finn's question and reacted instantly, telling what she had sensed. As soon as these words came out, everyone's pupils shrank. No one present had expected that the roots of the towering tree actually penetrated the ground of the entire floor and entered the 60th floor. Leviathan, tell Morningstar about this and let Morningstar make his own decision. Finn frowned, turned his head and looked at Leviathan after a long time, and said, "Ah." Leviathan nodded slightly, then took out the communication orb, not caring that Morningstar was fighting now. She also understood that something was wrong. Chapter 209, The Escaped Black Dragon, The Abnormal Dungeon. Chenxing, who was fighting, suddenly felt Leviathan's voice coming from his waist. He was stunned for a moment, then quickly dodged the attack of a dragon and a tree, and took out the communication orb from the bag on his waist. What's wrong? A trace of doubt flashed in Chenxing's eyes, and then he replied to Leviathan on the other side of the communication orb. Chenxing, the roots of that tree penetrated the 59th floor and entered the 60th floor. Leviathan didn't delay and told Chenxing the situation directly. Hearing this, Chenxing was stunned. The next second, the attack of the black dragon and the tree roots in front came again. Chenxing quickly dodged the attack of the black dragon and the giant tree, and then forgot to go down. The upper body of the towering tree was still lying there, without any breath. Only the lower body contained a strong breath. This guy's roots penetrated the 59th floor. Dodging the attack continuously, Chenxing's eyes fixed on the towering tree below, with some doubts in his heart. The next second, Morningstar spread out the veins of light and shadows again. Morningstar's attainments in these two magics are not comparable to Leviathan. Morningstar was flying dozens of meters above the ground at this time, and was also 033 kilometers away from the location of the towering tree. But Morningstar's exploration magic spread to the location of the towering tree in an instant, and explored downward along the 3-day eye tree. Before, Morningstar had never thought of always using the exploration magic to explore downwards. Who would explore underground for no reason? Because this is very troublesome, whether it is shadow or light veins, it is very troublesome to penetrate into the ground. It was only before that they knew that there were tree roots lurking underground, and the Morningstar group explored it. If it weren't for Leviathan's reminder this time, Morningstar would not have conducted a deep exploration of the ground. This exploration, Morningstar found that the situation was really the same as Leviathan said. The roots of the giant tree penetrated the 59th floor and entered the 60th floor. The 60th floor is really the same as the intelligence, a frozen world. After the roots of the giant tree penetrated the 59th floor, there was no movement, and it just fell there quietly. Morningstar couldn't tell what the giant tree was going to do, so he could only keep an eye on it, which added some trouble to Morningstar. "I have found out. I will keep an eye on it, don't worry." After finding out the situation of the roots of the giant tree opposite, Morningstar replied to Leviathan. Morningstar already knows, let's not worry about it. Although everyone heard the voice from the communication orb, Leviathan still repeated it. Well, Morningstar has a bottom line in his heart, so he will go, and nodded. "Leviathan, you have seen the situation on the 60th floor just now, how is it?" After responding, Finn turned to look at Leviathan and asked Leviathan, "Just like the intelligence, it's a world of ice and snow, and I don't know what's beyond that. It takes too much mental energy to penetrate the floor and explore the 60th floor. I cancelled the magic after detecting it." Leviathan nodded and said, "So there is no mutation on the 60th floor." Hearing this, Finn was relieved. In the dungeon, the most troublesome thing is the mutation of the floor. Even if there is a strengthened species, it is better than the layer-by-layer mutation. Last time, they encountered the Fallen Fairy's clone. This time, two monsters with strength of 4.8 came at once. Finn was really worried that the 60th floor would also mutate, which would be very disadvantageous for them. After all, once the mutation occurs, their intelligence will be completely useless, and Hieo will face a more difficult situation. The current 59th floor is already troublesome enough, and they really don't want another mutation. It's best to follow the strategy step by step and become stronger. Others have the same idea. This kind of extraordinary situation only happens once in a while, but it is not good if it happens continuously. Then, everyone did not say much, and their eyes shifted to the battlefield again. At this time, on the ground, Uranus stared at the picture sent back by the crystal ball, frowned, and murmured in a low voice, "What are you going to do?" The picture returned to the 59th floor, and Morningstar was already fighting with Black Dragon and Eye Tree. However, Morningstar now has more attention to investigate the situation of the giant tree. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, another half an hour had passed. The frequency of the heat behind Morningstar's heart dropped again. Although Morningstar wanted to let Black Dragon and the towering giant tree be his sparring partner to improve his strength, he would still take action when it was time. After half an hour, Black Dragon was injured, and they were all serious, but Black Dragon's physique was very strong, and even if the injury was serious, it still did not have much impact on Black Dragon's strength. However, the roots of the giant tree below had been reduced sharply in the past half hour, and 2/3 of them were destroyed by Morningstar, and the breath of the ear became much weaker. In midair, after dodging the attack of the black dragon again, Morningstar narrowed his eyes slightly and looked down at the stump of the towering giant tree directly below him. Coincidence? No, it shouldn't be a coincidence. The black dragon has been moving here since just now, but I interrupted it every time. But even so, the black dragon still hasn't given up moving here. What's special here? What are these two guys planning? Chenxing murmured in a low voice after taking a look at the situation below. The next second, his figure flashed and shrank from the original position, avoiding the attack of the black dragon and the tree roots. However, Chenxing soon knew what the two guys were going to do. The black dragon and the towering tree attacked Chenxing again, and Chenxing dodged. Neither the dragon nor the tree chased Chenxing as closely as before, and launched a life-threatening attack on Chenxing, but began to retreat. That's right, it retreated. The towering tree controlled dozens of thick tree roots to shrink back, and the black dragon also turned into a stream of light and rushed down. Seeing this scene, Chenxing's eyelids jumped. Without any hesitation, Chenxing also turned into a stream of light and rushed down. Finn and the others on the edge of the wall saw this scene, and they were all stunned. The black dragon had an iron-headed image since its birth, chasing Morningstar. Even though it was repeatedly injured by Morningstar's attacks, it still had no intention of stopping the attack. It still attacked Morningstar with an attitude of not turning back until it hit the south wall. This scene in front of me was the first time it appeared. This black dragon actually abandoned Morningstar and flew towards the giant tree. What was it trying to do? Finn and the others saw it, and Uranus on the ground naturally saw it, as did Fels. One man and one god had been paying attention to the movements of Morningstar and others since Morningstar and others stepped into the 59th floor. This black dragon actually retreated. Fels couldn't help shouting out. His idea was the same as Finn's. Uranus didn't speak, his eyes were slightly sunken and flickered, and I don't know what he was thinking. Although he didn't know what the black dragon and the giant tree were going to do, Morningstar couldn't just sit back and watch. At the moment when the black dragon flew towards the giant tree, Morningstar also rushed over. However, the next second, Morningstar's pupils suddenly shrank. Then, Morningstar saw a very terrible power suddenly erupting from the giant tree. It was a black mist, a mist that looked very ominous at first glance, and the whole body of the tree, including the roots, burst out with this weapon. As soon as this black mist appeared, it spread directly to the surroundings. Buzz! In just a moment, the location where the towering giant tree was located was eroded, and the potholes in the basin instantly turned into an extremely huge pit. A cold air instantly rushed up to the sky, and in a moment it assimilated the air, and the breath of frost spread. The huge body of the towering giant tree fell straight down at a very fast speed. And the black dragon did not hesitate at all, and even accelerated the speed and flew down. All these changes happened completely in an instant. Destroyed the ground on the 59th floor? These two guys want to escape from here. Seeing this scene, a thought instantly emerged in Chenxing's mind. Without any hesitation, Chenxing instantly entered the Samsara I mode, the Super Death Chi mode, and the Death Chi flame was also ignited, which raised his strength to the peak state. Chenxing didn't want the black dragon to escape. This guy was a disaster, more terrible than a towering tree. He could make other people lose their resistance. Except for himself, others could not resist at all. Keeping this guy would only pose a threat to Nanon and others. Chenxing's flying speed reached the limit in an instant. In just a moment, he appeared in front of the pit. However, the black dragon seemed to have been prepared for a long time. It burst out at an extreme speed and entered the 60th floor almost instantly. The towering tree that had fallen at the beginning stopped, and its huge roots shot out to both sides and inserted into the ground, stabilizing itself in the pit and forming a huge net with its roots, as if to stop Morningstar. At the same time, the ground began to wriggle rapidly, and the entire ground recovered at an incredible speed. In just a blink of an eye, the huge cave hundreds of meters wide recovered more than half, and it was still wriggling rapidly. Is this tree and the underground city covering the black dragon's escape? Seeing this scene, Morningstar's eyes were slightly startled, and his heart was stirred. The next second, the golden light appeared in Morningstar's hands for the first time in a long time. Golden Wheel Reincarnation Explosion. Without any hesitation, Morningstar directly cut down the golden light in his hand. Crack. Boom. Chapter 210, The End of the Dungeon, Uranus's Response. The golden giant sword of light cut the towering tree in half, and also cut off half of the black dragon's body that entered the 60th floor. At this moment, the big hole on the ground was closed. Morningstar floated quietly on the ground, without any intention of blasting a hole in the ground and then rushing down. Dungeon, personally went down. There was no other reason for this recovery speed except that the underground city took the initiative to go down. Like the last expedition, the Balkan dragon in the dragon pot sniped through the 7th and 8th floors of Morningstar and others, and the recovery speed of the vertical channel blasted out was very slow. It took a full hour to recover to the original state. It was not like now, it recovered in 2 seconds, and it was such a large-scale recovery. This was the first time that Morningstar heard of this situation. The underground city personally went down to help the black dragon escape. Even if Morningstar wanted to break the ground and go down to the next floor, he would be stopped by the underground city. Moreover, the black dragon probably didn't know which floor he had entered now. What Morningstar is concerned about now is what exactly the dungeon is going to do. It gave birth to a new black dragon, and then spent a lot of effort to help the black dragon escape from its hands. What's the purpose? Morningstar doesn't think that the dungeon will be idle and give birth to two 4.8 monsters, and in order to cover one of the monsters, the other monster is abandoned. This newly born black dragon must be very special, which is why the dungeon spent so much effort to help it escape. 26 has no clue. Muttering in a low voice, Morningstar took another look at the deep pit that had completely recovered its previous appearance, and then left here in a flash. When Morningstar appeared again, he was already in front of Finn and others. Morningstar, how is the situation? Seeing Morningstar appear, everyone came over and asked about the situation as soon as possible. Because they ran down the pit, they couldn't see it from here, and they didn't know what happened over there. Morningstar didn't hide it and told the situation. After listening to Morningstar's story, everyone's faces looked a little ugly. They didn't expect that the dungeon would take the initiative to help a monster escape. This is the first time in recorded history. No one dared not to take this situation lightly. After all, if the dungeon could do such a thing, the harm would increase several times at once. They are now in the dungeon, or in other people's stomachs. The dungeon had been very quiet before, so there was nothing to worry about. But now that the dungeon has done this, they may become fish on the sticky board. We must report this to the guild. Finn said solemnly. Uranus has been using his divine power to suppress the dungeon, and he can explore what is happening in the dungeon. But not much can be explored, because although the dungeon is suppressed by the divine power of the god Uranus, it also has the ability to resist. Like the destroyer at the beginning, the frequently appearing enhanced species, and the mutation on the 59th floor where they are now are the resistance of the dungeon. Report this to the god Uranus after we go back. Morningstar nodded. Then, shall we continue to move towards the 60th floor? At this time, Livalia's voice suddenly sounded, and everyone looked over. Rarely, Livalia's face actually showed a nervous look. Keep moving forward, it's okay. Looking at Livalia's nervous look, Morningstar naturally knew what Livalia was thinking, and replied with a smile. Although the dungeon has undergone a huge change, it's only the 60th floor. With our current strength, we can still handle it. Finn also smiled and said, yes, as long as we don't encounter the black dragon just now, our strength can fully handle it. Diona nodded repeatedly. The black dragon just ran away, and it is absolutely impossible for the room to appear in front of us in a short time. Don't worry. Dione also spoke up. Keep moving forward. AISI murmured in a low voice. Others also spoke up, agreeing to continue to march to the 60th floor. Thank you. Hearing everyone's answer, Livalia breathed a sigh of relief, and then thanked them gently. She had been looking forward to entering the 60th floor since the beginning of this expedition, and going to the gap between the 60th and 61st floors to see if she could find some clues related to her mother. She really didn't want this expedition to end here on the 59th floor again. Everyone responded with a smile. Morningstar, you take a rest first, we will set off in half an hour. Yes. At this time, on the ground, Uranus's face became even gloomier. After suppressing the dungeon for so long, this was the first time he encountered such a thing. The dungeon actually helped a monster escape. Uranus, what do you think the dungeon is planning? Fels was also very unbelievable. He turned his head and looked at Uranus on the altar and said, I will investigate after Morningstar and the others return from the expedition. However, I guess the dungeon will stop me. It is still unknown whether I can investigate it. Uranus shook his head and said, since using the power of God to suppress the dungeon, Uranus has hardly done such a thing. Because the dungeon has been resisting the power of God, the deeper the floor, the more his power cannot reach. Every time he touches those floors, the dungeon will resist strongly. In order to prevent the dungeon from rioting, he will hardly do such a thing. But this time, Uranus felt that this matter could not be let go. Even if the dungeon rioted, it had to be investigated clearly. However, it would take time to use the power of God to investigate the situation after the 60th floor. Morningstar and his companions were still on the 59th floor, and they were going to attack the 60th floor. If he went to explore the dungeon now and caused a riot in the dungeon, it would definitely bring great trouble to Morningstar and his companions. In the dungeon, Morningstar and his companions started their journey after resting for half an hour. Before, Finn and his companions had to slowly follow the wall to find the entrance to the 60th floor, but now that Starry Sky had taken action, there was no need to waste time at all. Morningstar spread out a vein of light and soon found the entrance to the 60th floor of the passage. However, Morningstar really didn't expect that the entrance to the 60th floor was on the ground, not on the wall, just like those floors in the Great Wilderness. He didn't investigate carefully when he used the vein of light before. So, are you all ready? Standing in front of the entrance, Finn, who was wearing a fire elf cloth, looked at everyone and said in a deep voice, yes, we are ready. Everyone spoke in unison. At this time, everyone was wearing a fire elf cloth like Finn, and even Morningstar was no exception. There is no way. The 60th floor of Qiankang Ice Field is a world of ice and snow, a floor where even the first-level adventurers can hardly move. Only by wearing the fire spirit cloth, a clothing with flame attributes that can keep warm, can you feel excited there. Even the sisters Dione and Diona, who always wear cool clothes, are now wrapped tightly, not only wearing the fire spirit cloth outside, but also wearing normal clothes inside. Then, let's go. Finn nodded and then shouted loudly. The next second, everyone stepped into the dark passage. When they stood in front of the passage, they could feel the cold breath coming from the passage. Now, as soon as they stepped into the passage, the temperature suddenly dropped again. A colder breath came to their faces, making everyone shiver. Ah, it's so cold. Feeling the biting cold breath on her face, Diona couldn't help but muttered. Her body was wrapped tightly, but her face was not. When the cold wind blew, Diona felt goose bumps all over her body. It's hard to imagine how the Zeus family and the Hera family attacked this building before. Diogen couldn't help but wrap up the 120-meter clothes on his body. Others were just as curious. Ah, so the Zeus family and the Hera family described the floors after the 59th floor as difficult for even the first-level adventurers to move. The next step will be a big battle, don't take it lightly. Finn smiled and reminded. Everyone continued to move forward in the cold wind. 10 minutes later, everyone reached the end of the passage and came to the 60th floor. This time, everyone was not attacked before stepping out of the passage like when they entered the 59th floor before, and they entered the 60th floor smoothly. As soon as they entered the 60th floor, they felt that the temperature outside had dropped a few degrees. Chenxing estimated that the temperature on the 60th floor was comparable to the temperature in Mohe, northeast China, in Chenxing's previous life, at least 30 degrees below zero. It's really a world of ice and snow, Alice murmured in a low voice as she looked at the scenery in front of her. Everything that caught everyone's eyes was white. The entire floor was only white. The wind was howling, the sky was full of snow, and there were icebergs and glaciers on the thick ice layer. Crack, crack. Before everyone began to observe the environment in front of them, a familiar sound of breaking came into everyone's ears. On the ground in front of everyone, a series of broken cracks appeared, and then ahead of a snow-white, huge, at least 5-meter-tall snowman broke out of the frozen layer with a frozen giant axe. Is this the giant axe snowman of Qiankang Ice Field? It's really big. It's not a problem with its aura of only 4.5. Let's do it. Looking at the new monster he saw for the first time, Finn's mouth corners slightly raised, and then he gave a loud order. As soon as he finished speaking, Finn led the way and rushed out. Seeing this, the others also took action. Only Morningstar, Vilya, and Master Lefiya did not move. Livalia silently chanted the chant, while Lefiya waved the magic wand in her hand, and a huge magic circle emerged, and a white beam of light shot up into the sky. Chapter 211, Finding the Gap, Unknown Monster. The monsters on the 60th floor are about the same strength as those on the 59th floor, both of which are 4.5 and 4.6, with 4.6 accounting for the majority. However, although the frequency of monsters on the 60th floor is still very fast and there are many of them, they are not as abnormal as the previous 59th floor. It seems that this is the frequency that a normal floor should have. This makes everyone sure that the abnormal frequency of monsters born on the 59th floor was caused by the mutation. The monsters on the 60th floor are all ice and snow creatures. Snowmen, hairy men, snow wolves, or should we say Fimbul, the fierce wolf in Norse mythology, in addition to white bears, frost giants, ice elves, etc., the number has reached 12, 2 more than the number of monsters on the 59th floor. Although the frequency of monsters born on the 60th floor is not as high as the mutated 59th floor, Finn is no easier to fight than when he fought on the $9th floor before, even wearing clothes made of fire elf cloth and fire elf cloth. Chenxing did not explore the world behind the 60th floor passage, and was ready to explore with everyone later. The information given by the guild is that there is a gap between the 60th and 61st floors of the passage. Something special seems to have happened there, but no one knows, because the entrance to the gap will move. At that time, the Zeus family and the Hera family were advancing all the way, but they fell into a big fall there. As an adventurer of the Hera family at that time, Livalia's mother was also buried there. This was still found by Fels with great difficulty. However, Fels only entered there for a few minutes, and then fled there in a panic. Without even fully exploring the situation there, Songlai had time to bring back the relics he found. According to the information obtained by Fels, it seems that there is a special force protecting the place, and even the god Uranus at that time used his divine power to explore, but he could not find the existence of the place. While watching the battle, Chenxing recalled the information he had obtained from the guild about the gap between the 60th and 61st floors. Chenxing was quite interested in this gap, because even the god Uranus used his divine power to detect the existence of this gap, which could be said to be an unknown area. Chenxing pointed out the direction of the passageway to everyone, and everyone fought all the way there. Even so, with the harsh environment and a large number of monsters, it took everyone more than 8 hours to arrive here. Standing in front of the passageway, Livalia exhaled heavily, and this breath turned into a frosty breath in an instant under the influence of the environment. Don't be too excited, Livalia. Looking at Livalia's appearance, Chenxing kindly reminded her. On this ice and snow floor, breathing in and out like this is a very fatal mistake. Well, I know, thank you. Livalia nodded and thanked him. Let's go. Finn spoke at this time, giving orders. Everyone had no objection and stepped in. Even in the passage, the temperature still did not change, it was very cold. Everyone walked in the passage, but frowned. although I knew it from the information I got from the guild before. But I really didn't expect that the passage between the 60th and 61st floors would be like this. Finn scanned the surrounding environment and frowned slightly. Except for the frozen layer here, the other floors are no different from the upper floors. It's exactly the same floor, so many passages. Diona said, just scanning around. Really, with so many forks in the road, it must be very troublesome to find the passage to the 60th floor. Shin nodded in agreement. The passage between the 60th and 61st floors is completely different from other floors. It is not a direct passage at all. Instead, it is the same as the upper floors, full of various passages, just like a floor. No wonder this place is called a gap. Of course, the real gap is hidden in this gap. Arnold, Shin-san, this is not difficult. Mr. Morningstar can find it with a detection magic. Hearing Shin's words, the elf Lefiya whispered, but Shin, who had sharp hearing, heard it and was directly pressed on the temple by Shin with both fists, and cried out in pain. Don't forget, we still have to find the gap on this floor. At this time, Grace also spoke, but reminded them of their plan this time. Before the expedition, Livalia said that after reaching the 60th floor, they would look for the gap hidden in the passage leading to the 61st floor. Everyone nodded when they heard this. Morningstar, can you use your magic to explore it? Livalia asked Morningstar. I'll give it a try. After all, the god Uranus didn't find the gap at the beginning. Morningstar nodded and responded softly. Thank you. As soon as the thought came, the invisible veins of light spread out in all directions. Everyone's eyes fell on Morningstar, waiting for the results of Morningstar's exploration. Everyone had confidence in Morningstar, and believed that Morningstar's exploration method was always successful. However, this time, everyone was disappointed. Because Morningstar explored the entire passage, even the exit of the passage, but just couldn't find the gap. Sorry, I didn't find it. Facing Livalia's expectant eyes, Morningstar shook his head slightly. As soon as these words came out, Livalia was slightly startled, and the expectation on her face disappeared visibly. Her brows knitted slightly and she sighed softly. It's okay. Since magic can't detect it, let's search slowly. We have a lot of supplies, so we are not afraid of consumption. Seeing Livalia's lost look, and comforted her. Yes, let's search slowly. It doesn't matter this little bit of time. Diona also spoke, smiling. Others also spoke to comfort her. Hearing everyone's comfort, Livalia's face looked slightly better, and she said softly, thank you 10 times to everyone. Thank you everyone. Yeah, Morningstar, is this passage big? After cheering Livalia up, Finn looked at Morningstar and asked Morningstar. It's very big, about the same size as those floors in the middle. Morningstar replied. Is it so big? In that case, let's split up. Grace and I will take Angel, Dione, and Diona, and you will go with Gohano. Ace, you take Alice and Ryu. Finally, Livalia, Lefiya, and Alicia, you will go with Morningstar. Use the communication orb to contact everyone when you find it. Is that okay? Finn was a little surprised to hear that the area of this passage was so large, and then he made a decision quickly and arranged it for everyone. No problem. Everyone had no objection to Finn's arrangement. The middle layer is already very large, and now this passage is very troublesome for them to find compared to the middle layer, not to mention that the gap in the intelligence is very difficult to find, and even Morningstar's detection magic could not find it, so splitting up is the best choice. Finn and Grace are both leave 7 together, and so are Dione and Diona. And Isai is stronger than any of the 4 of them, plus 2 leave 6, it is not inferior to the other 2 groups at all. And Morningstar is not to mention. With such a team formation, there is nothing to worry about. What's more, everyone can contact each other at any time, and can rush over as soon as possible if they encounter any crisis. Zhao. Okay, then let's split up. With Finn's order, everyone was divided into 4 teams and walked towards different passages. Morningstar, do you think we can find that place? In the ice blue passage, Livalia looked depressed and murmured in a low voice. Don't worry, Lady Livalia, as long as we look for it seriously, we will definitely find it. Lefiya encouraged on the side. That's right, please believe in yourself. Lord Jaiwei, Alicia also followed and comforted. If Fells can find it, we are not inferior to him, we will find it. Morningstar also smiled slightly and comforted. Well, after receiving the consolation from the 3 people, Livalia nodded slightly, and her face looked much better, but she didn't say anything more. She quickly scanned the surroundings, looking for the possible entrance to the gap hidden in it. Morningstar and others also began to look for it. To be honest, Morningstar felt that this so-called gap should be in a different space. And it is a very special space. Only in this way can the group make both the god Uranus and Morningstar incapable of being the king of the calendar. Just when everyone was looking for a gap in the passage between the 60th and 61st floors, on the 61st floor, a huge monster was slowly moving towards the entrance to the passage leading to the 60th floor. Chapter 212, Conversation at the Altar, Behemoth. There is no trace at all. Walking in the monotonous passage, Chenxing scanned the surrounding walls and ceilings, and even carefully checked the ground, but did not see anything wrong. The passage Chenxing is in now is the 15th passage that everyone has come to after they separated. After searching 15 passages, there is no harvest at all. This is normal, Mr. Chenxing. According to the information of the guild, Mr. Fels knew that a team of Zeus and Hera's family disappeared here, so he knew that something was wrong here, so he searched here for a long time. Mr. Fels searched here for a week. Lefia whispered beside. I know this. Chenxing smiled and nodded. 3 days, if we can't find the gap within 3 days, we will leave here. Livalia, who had been silent since the search began, suddenly spoke up and said in a deep voice. Okay, I'll tell you about this. Chenxing heard this, thought for a moment, and then nodded. Thank you. Rivalia heard this and spoke softly, thanking him. With her reputation in the team, it was obviously impossible for everyone to stay here for 3 days, looking for a place that was completely unknown to everyone and might not be found. After all, this was the 60th floor, a very dangerous floor. But if Morningstar spoke, it would be different. Now the whole team was very convinced by Morningstar. When Morningstar spoke, the possibility of others objecting was almost zero. Finn, Ace, Dione, we will stay in this passage for 3 days. If we can't find it within 3 days, we will go to the next floor. Morningstar didn't hesitate and directly escaped from the communication orb and contacted the other 3 teams. The other 3 teams were a little surprised after receiving the contact from Morningstar. However, after thinking for a while, none of the 3 parties objected. If it were in the past, this kind of thing would indeed be impossible, because they had to ensure their own safety and also had to consider the supply situation. But now with Morningstar here, there is no need to worry about safety or supply. It's just a waste of 3 days, which is no big deal at all. While ensuring their own safety, they also hope to help Livalia. Done. After receiving the responses from the other 3 teams, Chenxing put the communication orb back on the bag on his waist and said with a smile. Thank you. Livalia smiled and nodded, thanking him again. Immediately, the 4 began to search again. While Chenxing and others continued to look for the entrance to the gap, on the other side, at the entrance from the 61st floor to the 60th floor, a huge figure came here, then slowly raised his huge foot and stepped into the passage. The huge foot landed on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. But in the huge passage, this vibration was barely detectable and not worth mentioning at all. The people in the passage did not feel this vibration and were still searching for the entrance to the gap. Chenxing did not open the light vein for no reason, because this magic consumed a lot of magic power. Moreover, in such a place, magic power should be saved. So Chenxing didn't notice that an uninvited guest had appeared in the passage at this time. In the ice blue passage, the huge monster slowly moved forward. In a passage in front of it, Isai and the other 2 were searching carefully. Fels, do you think they can find it? On the ground, in the underground altar of the guild, Ulanos looked at the screen in front of him and murmured in a low voice. I don't know, that place seems to be a different space, and its entrance has been moving. It is because I have reached the pinnacle in the mystery that I found something wrong with Sissi and found the entrance. However, not long after entering there, I withdrew because of the special situation inside. Although I found some relics of the 2 major families inside, I couldn't find the entrance again after I came out. At that time, I searched there for 3 days, and I returned after finding nothing. Fels shook his head and replied lightly. Immediately, Fels said what he cared about. Uranus, which floor do you think Morningstar can conquer this time? I don't know. When Zeus's family and Hera's family first entered the 60th floor, they only conquered 2 floors and reached the 61st floor. The second expedition after that, they conquered from the 63rd floor to the 65th floor. After that, they couldn't conquer any floor at all. It took several months to enter the new floor. After that, the progress of Zeus's and Hera's families slowed down completely. Each expedition could only conquer 1 floor, and then they were exhausted and had to return to the ground for supplies. Uranus shook his head lightly and murmured softly. There is no way. After all, starting from the 65th floor, the passages to the next floor are very special. In order to prevent adventurers from entering deeper floors, the dungeon has set up obstacles on each floor, and they need to find the so-called key to enter. Monsters don't need this at all. The dungeon will let them go on their own initiative. However, the kind of monsters that go to other floors are very rare. Fels also shook his head and sighed. With the extremely powerful exploration magic of Morningstar, it should be possible to find the key hidden in the monster quickly. The key is that the so-called key is different in each layer, and it changes once a month, and there is no pattern to what it becomes. It is also difficult to find the corresponding key. Speaking of this, I still don't know how Dionysus got in touch with the fallen fairy. Uranus said lightly. I am also curious. Fels nodded in agreement. He was also very curious about how Dionysus got in touch with the fallen fairy hidden in the depths of the dungeon, and how he brought back so many fairy pearls and created so many fallen fairy clones. Wait, Uranus, look at that guy. Fels' voice just fell, and the next second the voice sounded again, and it was raised several levels, almost like a scream. Even Uranus, who was sitting on the altar throne, stood up from the throne unconsciously after seeing the huge figure appearing on the screen. Behemoth. Why did this monster appear in the dungeon? It was the black dragon before, and now it's Behemoth. What on earth does this dungeon guy want to do? Is the dungeon preparing to give birth to 3 new commissions? Fels was also extremely shocked at this time. The appearance of a new black dragon before had already shocked Fels very much. Now there is a new Land King Behemoth. Fells even doubted whether the dungeon was preparing to give birth to 3 new commissions, the Land King Behemoth, the Sea Overlord Leviathan, and the Sky King Black Dragon. In the passage from the 60th floor to the 61st floor of the dungeon, Isai and others were stunned at the first moment when they saw the huge monster that suddenly appeared in front of them. Isai and the other 2 did not expect that in the passages on the 60th and 61st floors, just like the passages on the 58th and 59th floors, there would be monsters, and they were even so huge. What a powerful aura. This aura is not much different from the black dragon and the giant tree that appeared on the 59th floor. Looking at the huge figure in front of her, Isai's pupils condensed slightly, and she murmured in her heart, hey, this adventure is really thrilling. Another monster of this level has appeared. A drop of cold sweat appeared on Alice's forehead, and she said in an exaggerated tone. Beside her, Lu was ready for battle at this time. Isai could feel the aura of the monster in front of her, and Alice and Lu could naturally feel it too. Another 4.8 monster. In this adventure, they, the Astria family, have 1 leave 6 and 2 4.5. How come they always encounter this level of existence? Baby is in pain. AISI didn't know what Alishi and Lu were thinking. Alishi had taken out the communication bead and contacted everyone. We encountered a leave 8 monster here, requesting support. Although AISI hated monsters and wanted to kill all monsters, she knew the importance of the situation. With her own strength, she was no match for the monster in front of her, so she contacted everyone for reinforcements as soon as possible. As soon as AISI finished speaking, a large amount of venom sprayed out of the mouth of the behemoth opposite, turning into purple arrows and shooting towards AISI, Alishi, and Master Lu. Seeing this, the 3 of them took out their fastest speed to dodge. On the other side, Chenxing and others were stunned after receiving AIC's message. The next second, everyone ran quickly. Chenxing, guide. Finn shouted to the communication bead while running. Finn, turn left, Chen, turn left. The voice of Chenxing came from the communication bead as soon as possible. After receiving AIC's request for reinforcement, Morningstar immediately opened the veins of light and included the entire passage in his surveillance. He also immediately discovered AISI and the other 2 who had already started fighting with the monster. At the same time, he also saw the actions of Finn and others. After hearing Finn's words, Morningstar quickly took over the command and led both parties to move towards AISI. Morningstar, what's the situation? In the white light, Livalia sat next to Morningstar and asked Morningstar. A huge monster covered with purple liquid. Morningstar told Livalia what he saw. Behemoth. As soon as Morningstar finished speaking, the voices of Finn, Grace, and Livalia sounded at the same time. Behemoth. Chapter 213, Underground City. Behemoth. Everyone, including Morningstar, was stunned when they heard the words of Livalia and the other 2. Even Isai, who was fighting with Behemoth, was stunned for a moment and was almost hit by the poison arrow. Morningstar and others also obtained information about the 3 kings from the guild, but it was just some descriptions and they didn't know what they really looked like. Moreover, in the information obtained by Morningstar, Behemoth's appearance was not what he had seen before. Behemoth's form was a dragon species similar to a dinosaur, but unlike a black dragon, it had no wings. To put it simply, it was a huge standing lizard. Well, it was probably similar to Godzilla, but not as tall as Godzilla. The 3 commissions did not give a specific description, so make it up yourself. And the monster he had just seen was covered in purple liquid. Yes, it's Behemoth. When Behemoth uses his ability, his whole body is covered with purple liquid. It's a very poisonous venom. Ace, Alice, Lu, don't be hurt by the venom. Once you are hurt, you probably won't be able to resist it with your physical constitution. Even the gluttonous Shardo, who was once known to have the strongest internal organs, couldn't resist after eating that guy's meat. In just a few years, his body was severely corroded and he became seriously ill. The one who said this was Grace, who knew Behemoth better than anyone else present. Because Grace had the best relationship with Shardo, who defeated Behemoth, among all the people present. Before Shardo left Orario, Grace often drank with Shardo in the tavern, and they were very good friends. It was also because he was very good friends with Shardo that Grace knew the most about Behemoth among all the people present. After defeating Behemoth, Shardo, who came back, told him about the defeat. Hearing Grace's warning, Isai and the other 2 who were fighting Behemoth suddenly became more vigilant, and did not dare to approach Behemoth easily, and Song dared to use long-range attacks. Isai's wind magic, Liu's light and wind, and Alice's flame. Hold on, Isai, Alice, Lu, we'll go over now. Finn also spoke at this time, cheering for Isai and the others on the other side of the communication orb. Morningstar, how far is it? Above the light, Livalia asked Chenxing worriedly, and Lefia and Arya beside him were also very anxious. It's okay, Behemoth's strength is the same as the previous black dragon. With the strength of Isai and the other 2, it's no problem to fight for a short time. Besides, it's only about 2 minutes. Morningstar comforted. Morningstar has been paying attention to the battle situation on Isai's side, and nothing bad has happened. Hearing what Chenxing said, Livalia and the other 2 were slightly relieved. Since Chenxing said so, there should be no problem with Isai for the time being. There was no need for Chenxing to lie to them. Morningstar nodded, and then focused on the battle on Isai's side and the directions given by Finn and Chen. The team closest to Ace was Finn's team. It only took about a minute for Finn, Grace, Bert, I forgot to add them before, and Angel to reach Ace and fight with Behemoth. Afterwards, the three of Dione also advanced, and only the group of Morningstar was the farthest from Esnali. Not long after Finn and the other four joined the battlefield, Dione and the other three also arrived there and participated in the battle. This Behemoth is really strong, and coupled with its special features, 5v.7, 3 4.7, 2 just upgraded to 4.7, plus 3 4.6 and 2 4.5, everyone joined forces, but was suppressed. However, it was only suppressed, and there were no casualties. In just half a minute, under the extremely fast flying magic of Morningstar, the four of Morningstar also arrived at the battlefield. At this time, the battlefield was extremely fierce, and everyone did not hold back, and all took out their strongest strength, magic, skills, as long as they could be used. They were thrown out without risking their lives. However, even so, Finn and the others were still suppressed and could not gain an advantage at all. Not only was Behemoth covered in a layer of purple venom, but his melee ability was also very strong. Whether it was strength, speed, or reaction speed, he was much stronger than anyone else present. Even when facing the siege of everyone, Behemoth was still at ease. Of course, it was mainly because of the layer of purple venom on Behemoth, which made Finn and others afraid to use it. If Finn and others ignored the existence of the venom and attacked desperately, Behemoth would never have the upper hand. As soon as Chenxing and others arrived, everyone discovered it. As soon as Livalaya and Lefiya landed, they began to prepare magic, while Yashiya drew the dagger from her waist and rushed over to join the battle. Chenxing looked at Behemoth, who was wrapped in purple venom, and raised his eyebrows slightly. The next second, Morningstar flashed and appeared above Behemoth's head. He reached out and touched Behemoth, which was stained with a little venom, and then disappeared. When he appeared again, Morningstar had returned to where he had just stood. Everyone on the battlefield naturally noticed this scene. Morningstar, what are you doing? Grace shouted worriedly. No one knew the horror of Behemoth's venom better than him. Seeing that Morningstar actually took the initiative to touch the venom, Grace was shocked and blurted out his worried words. Morningstar, you are too reckless. Even Livalaya, who was chanting magic text, was shocked and broke away from the state of chanting spells. Don't worry, I'm fine, you guys fight. Morningstar responded without raising his head, and then dealt with what he wanted to do. Morningstar naturally knew that Behemoth's venom was terrible, but Morningstar was not worried about being hurt. Chenxing has the holy grail of the underworld in his body, and Chenxing will recover from any injuries immediately. However, Chenxing temporarily suppressed the power of the holy grail of the underworld, allowing the venom to begin to corrode his fingers. Because Chenxing wanted to test whether his light magic could purify the poison of the venom. The next second, a white light appeared on Chenxing's palm. This was the light of the gate of heaven. Almost as soon as the light appeared, the venom in Chenxing's hand melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. The fingers that were originally corroded by the venom recovered instantly. Very good, no problem. Looking at the scene in front of him, Chenxing nodded with satisfaction. Livia's eyes lit up and knew what Chenxing was doing. Please give me flowers, 0. Sure enough, the next second, the familiar white light covered the battlefield. The familiar light fell on them, and everyone was stunned. They were naturally familiar with Chenxing's gate of heaven. They had been fighting in the light of the gate of heaven on the 60th floor. Then, Chenxing's voice came over. My gate of heaven can restore the erosion of venom. Fight with all your strength. He praised this guy to death. I won't interfere with this guy. Hearing what Chenxing said, everyone's eyes lit up. They fought very uncomfortably in this battle because they were worried about being contaminated by venom. But now Chenxing has made a guarantee, so what else is there to say? Just fight to the death with all your strength. The next second, everyone burst out with violent aura. The wings behind Ace, Dione, and Diona kept flashing, and the power of war, wind, and space burst out. Finn and others also used their own skills. Everyone ignored the venom on Behemoth's body and opened their swords against Behemoth. Battle 0. The situation changed all of a sudden. Behemoth, who had the upper hand due to the venom, soon fell into a disadvantage under the attack of Finn and others without regard for damage. The magic of Livalaya and Lefiya soon hit Behemoth. On the ground, in the underground altar, Uranus looked at the scene in front of him and fell into deep thought. After a long while, he slowly spoke. Fels, you say, if Morningstar was there, would Shardo not have to die? Well, if Morningstar was there, it would not be the turn of Zeus's family and Hera's family to strangle the 3 major commissions. The 3 major commissions would have been destroyed long ago, and there would not be a one-eyed black dragon left until now. Hearing Uranus' words, Fels choked for a while, and then muttered to himself. Yes, if Morningstar was born in that era, the 3 major commissions would have been terminated long ago. Uranus was silent for a moment after hearing this, and then sighed. It's not too late. The Morningstar finally came to Orario at the end of the agreed time and grew up, and it didn't take Lucifer so long to search for it in the lower world. With the Morningstar, the 3 major commissions will definitely be ended. The dungeon will also be completely ended. Fels, Uranus, I have always been curious about one thing, but I have never asked. Today, I want to ask. What is the essence of the dungeon? Uranus glanced in the direction of Fels after hearing this, sighed deeply, and then slowly spoke. Well, I'll tell you, but don't leak it out. Don't worry, my mouth is tight. Yeah, the dungeon can actually be said to be a god. Yeah, god. Yeah, God is the chaotic evil god that was born with us when the world was first born. It's just that the dungeon was born in the earth, not in the sky. We didn't know about it at the beginning, and we didn't know the existence of the dungeon. It wasn't until thousands of years ago when the dungeon first showed its claws that we knew there was such a chaotic god in the world. Chapter 214 Dialogue. That is a chaotic god, a special existence that broke through the boundary from the outside world at the beginning of the birth of heaven and earth. It has a very strong hidden aura. Because it entered this world at the beginning of the birth of heaven and earth, it successfully obtained the identity of this world, was not rejected, and then integrated into the earth. That guy lurked in the earth, absorbed a lot of earth energy, and became a very scary existence. We found that this guy existed hundreds of thousands of years ago. At that time, the underground city had become a climate, and the gods in the heavens are still in a mess because of boredom. Especially Loki, who instigated other gods all day long and provoked unrest among gods. That guy not only provoked unrest in the Nordic god realm, but also radiated the entire heaven. The gods in other god realms also had great unrest because of Loki's existence. The underground city is different from the gods we are born with, because it entered this world from the outside world and gained the status of gods, so it has the ability to grow. Unlike us, the sun layer does not change. That guy has a strong ambition. The energy of the earth can no longer satisfy him, so he wants to devour the gods to grow. The underground city took advantage of the unrest in the 000 world to act. However, we are not vegetarians. 1. The underground city was severely damaged by the gods of the heavens and returned to the earth to hide. Because it was severely damaged by us, the underground city is very disgusted and hateful towards the gods, and its reaction to the divine power is very intense. Many gods in the heavens also fell into a deep sleep because of this, and did not wake up until thousands of years ago. And the underground city has gradually recovered in these hundreds of thousands of years, and it did not reappear in this world until thousands of years ago. The underground city appeared at that time. At that time, we discovered the existence of the underground city, and discovered that the underground city was constantly giving birth to monsters, and these monsters rushed out of the ground and wanted to destroy the ground. We pitted the sentient beings in the earth and sent a large number of immortals to assist you. The heroic age began at that time. It was not until 1,000 years ago that the heroic age ended completely because of Albert and the Black Dragon. During this period, we gods have been discussing how to deal with the underground city. The grace of God appeared at that time. The underground city has the potential to grow and become stronger, and if we do not change, we will be surpassed by the underground city sooner or later, so we chose the people in the earth to deal with the underground city. If the gods do not change, then let the sentient beings in the earth grow up and let them become gods. However, we failed after all. We found that the grace of God can indeed make the sentient beings in the earth grow up all the way, and even become gods, but they can only grow into subordinate gods, which is not even comparable to us. Just when the gods were disappointed, the dungeon took the initiative to find us and signed a contract with us. That was a contract formed under the witness of the world. The content of the contract is the 3 major commissions. The dungeon gave birth to the 3 major commissions, and we trained powerful heroes to defeat the 3 major commissions. As long as we train adventurers capable of defeating the 3 major commissions within the agreed time and destroy the 3 major commissions, the dungeon will be bound by the power of the contract and will no longer be able to absorb the power of the earth to grow. Under the witness of the world, no one can escape. On the contrary, if you cannot defeat the 3 major commissions within the agreed time, then we gods will not be able to interfere in the affairs of the ground. Although the gods will not be restricted from going down to the world, they will not be allowed to develop their families. At that time, you will need to figure out what happens on the ground. In order to allow adventurers to grow up smoothly, many gods who hope to save the earth have united and signed a contract, which is to gather their divine power on me, and I will sit here, pray, and suppress the dungeon, so that the monsters in the dungeon can only exist on the corresponding floors and cannot appear on other floors at will. There are also many gods who did not participate. However, even if they did not participate, the gods in the lower world will tacitly sign a contract with the lower world, not allowing them to use their divine power to do whatever they want in the lower world. If they don't want to sign, we will not let them mess up in the lower world. Uranus told Fels about the relationship between the gods and the dungeon, as well as the nature of the dungeon. Is that so? As long as the 3 major commissions are defeated, the hidden dangers of the dungeon can be completely eliminated. Fels was shocked after hearing this. Ah, that's it. More than a decade ago, we were closest to completing the contract. It's a pity that the Zhou clan and the Hehe clan failed. We should have told them not to rush and let them grow for a while longer. Uranus said this, and closed his eyes deeply, hiding the fatigue and regret deep in his eyes. Immediately, he opened his eyes again, and a faint light appeared in his eyes. Fortunately, the morning star appeared this time. With the morning star, the contract will definitely be completed at the end of this agreement. Although I don't know what Lucifer is like, this guy has searched for the morning star in the lower world for hundreds of years and found it. This guy deserves credit. Ah, indeed, with the growth rate of the morning star, it will soon grow to the point of defeating the black dragon. And the previous black dragon also used that kind of power, but the morning star did not have any problems like the previous empress, hero, and tyrant. If it's the morning star, it can definitely be done. However, according to Uranus, wouldn't it be better if the dungeon didn't produce any monsters in this short period of time? In this way, without monsters to fight, adventurers can't grow up. Fels first agreed with Uranus, but then asked his inner doubts. Well, the dungeon can't stop the birth of monsters. After being severely damaged by us, the dungeon seemed to have some problems. As for what the problem is, we don't know, but the power of the dungeon is leaking, and the leaked power has become those monsters. The dungeon can't stop the leakage of power, so it can only take the initiative to produce various monsters, let the monsters rush to the ground and destroy the ground. The 3 kings were born at that time. It is probably because of this situation that the dungeon chose to sign a contract with us. Because of the continuous leakage of power, the dungeon itself is not in a good condition. And we used this reason to portray the grace of God, form the God's family, and cultivate adventurers. Uranus told his understanding of the dungeon. Is that so? Fels nodded in realization. Ah, that's it. Then Uranus, the last question, the contract signed between the gods and the dungeon is the 3 major commissions, right? Will the newly appeared Black Dragon and Behemoth be counted in it? No, this is also what I don't understand. The contract we signed has shown that Behemoth and Leviathan have been solved, and only the one-eyed Black Dragon is left. As long as the one-eyed Black Dragon is eliminated, the 3 major commissions will be completed, and we will win. So I don't understand why the dungeon gave birth to the Black Dragon and Behemoth again. After all, the birth of such a strong monster is also a great consumption for the dungeon. Uranus shook his head and frowned. It is precisely because he didn't know what the dungeon was doing, so Uranus was ready to wait for Chenxing and others to come back to explore the dungeon. Even with the contract, he was still worried that the dungeon was planning something. I see. However, the birth of Behemoth and the Black Dragon is also a good thing for us. At least, Morningstar and Finn have the resources to grow. After such a fierce battle, Finn and his team killed Behemoth, and their grace ability values must have made a huge leap. Perhaps in one expedition, Finn and his ability values will reach S. Fels nodded in understanding, then looked at the screen and said lightly, "That's right. However, it's also thanks to the existence of Morningstar, otherwise it would be impossible to do this." Uranus nodded in agreement. Immediately, Uranus frowned. "Fels, help me do something." "What is it, Uranus?" "Go and call Freya for me." Freya? Why call her? I want Freya's family to go on an expedition with Morningstar. Following Morningstar on an expedition can ensure the safety of adventurers as much as possible, and can also improve the grace ability value. This will be an evolutionary frenzy. I hope Freya's family will not be left behind. We can't really let Morningstar deal with the Black Dragon alone. The agreed time is coming soon. I hope there will be more adventurers who can fight the Black Dragon at that time. Freya's family must be fought for. Uranus explained softly. Is that so? But are you sure Morningstar is willing to lead Freya's family on an expedition? And will the brave ones be willing to follow Morningstar? Fels nodded in understanding, but then raised his own objection. I will convince them. Uranus heard this and fell silent for a rare moment. After a while, Uranus spoke softly. I understand. I'll call Freya over now. Hearing Uranus' words, Fels was silent for a moment, then nodded and disappeared into the darkness. I hope it's okay. Chapter 215, Entering the Gap, the huge cocoon of light. They are really fighting hard. As soon as they knew that my heavenly gate could cure Behemoth's poison, everyone started to fight desperately. Chenxing murmured in his heart as he watched the battle enter a completely white-hot stage. Just now, everyone was still fighting with their hands and feet tied, but as soon as he said this, everyone was willing to die. At this speed, Behemoth will probably be finished in half an hour. With his hands folded across his chest, Chenxing sat on the ladder on the light, looking at the scene in front of him, and made a guess in his heart. As a monster of 4.8, Behemoth definitely has a very strong self-healing ability. But Finn and others are also the same. The heavenly gate covered by Chenxing even makes Finn and others' self-healing ability many times stronger than Behemoth's self-healing ability. Almost as soon as the front foot was injured, the back foot recovered. Chenxing's guess was indeed correct. In less than half an hour, Finn and others solved Behemoth. That is to say, the passage from the 60th floor to the 61st floor is very large, and the ice layer is very thick, otherwise the entire passage would have collapsed in this battle. Whether it is Leviathan's high-level victory sword or the damage caused by Finn and others' full-strength attack, it is very terrifying. It's so refreshing. I didn't expect that I would get a Leave 7 and a Leave 8 in a row just after resurrection. I don't know how much the ability value will be improved now, but the great achievement value of Leave 5 to Leave 6 is definitely enough. After Behemoth was completely reduced to ashes, Alice couldn't help but roared to the sky. Indeed, this battle is really refreshing. Dione shouted 26 immediately, and then lay down directly after shouting. However, the next second Dione jumped up directly. It's so cold. Thank Morningstar for this, otherwise we would never have fought like we did just now. Finn stroked his ruling spear and chuckled. Good boy, this weapon is useless now. I need to take good care of it after I go back. Grace was also stroking his giant axe at this time, frowning slightly. Along the way, they experienced a lot of battles, and their weapons were seriously damaged. Especially this time, they joined forces to eliminate Behemoth, which caused very severe damage to their weapons. Although the weapon in his hand can still be used, it greatly reduces his combat power. Don't you have a spare immortal weapon? Use it first. Leviathan took a look and then said, well, this is the only way. Everyone nodded after hearing this. This expedition did not bring Chun, so everyone prepared 2 sets of weapons. The members of the Loki family all had the immortal weapons from the last expedition, and Lu and others were reminded before coming, and they also prepared spare weapons. As for why Chun was not brought, it was entirely because Chun did not want to come with them this time. Because the Hephaestus family received a large order this time. The Kali family settled in Orario placed a very large order with the Hephaestus family. Chun stayed on the ground to make weapons. As they were talking, everyone had gathered at Morningstar's side. Grace carried the huge magic stone left by Behemoth after his death and followed everyone to Morningstar. Morningstar, thank you very much this time. This magic stone is a thank you gift. Everyone has no objection. Finn said to Morningstar, and he would report after the medical treatment. Everyone had no objection to this. Because although Morningstar did not take action, it did help a lot. They were all under the care of Morningstar all the way, and the gate to heaven was opened all the way. Moreover, this time Behemoth was also given to them by Morningstar. If Morningstar really took action, it would not be their business at all. This was originally a favor, and they accepted it. Now this magic stone is a thank you gift. Behemoth's magic stone is very big, much bigger than Barrel's magic stone before, and the color is also darker, and you can tell at a glance that it is of high quality. Then I won't be polite. Chenxing didn't show off to everyone's behavior and accepted it directly. This magic stone is useless to Chenxing, but it is very useful to Chenxing's 2 elves. In fact, Chenxing had planned to collect the Black Dragon's magic stone after taking it down, and give it to Xiaoguang and Zioan after returning. Now that the Black Dragon is gone, a Behemoth has come, which can be regarded as a replacement. It's a pity that the towering tree before was a bit of a pity. When it was destroyed by itself, it was directly absorbed by the recovery ability of the dungeon, and the magic stone could not be obtained at all. It is estimated that it was recovered by the dungeon. After destroying Behemoth, everyone began to rest. Although Chenxing's gate to heaven has been covering them, the high-intensity battle has ultimately consumed their energy. They must rest well. Chenxing used flying magic to open up a huge light. Everyone sat there and talked. There was no other way. The ground was too cold and they couldn't sit there. We didn't find any useful clues here. How is the search going on over there? Have you found any useful clues? Finn asked first. Morningstar didn't say anything, but just shook his head slightly. No, is there really a gap here? Diona followed up, shaking her head. We have the same problem here. Alice also spoke up, sighing and shaking her head. Just when everyone thought they had not found any clues, Isai spoke up and said softly, Arnold, just now, I seemed to feel a special fluctuation. As soon as these words came out, everyone's attention was instantly attracted. Just now, after Behemoth appeared, I suddenly felt a subtle space fluctuation in this passage. Seeing everyone looking at her, Isai did not hesitate and explained directly. Space fluctuation. Livalia raised her eyebrows slightly. Well, I didn't feel anything at first, but after Behemoth appeared, I felt it. Although it was very weak, I did feel it. But I was dealing with Behemoth just now, so I didn't say it. I can still feel the fluctuation now, and it's moving all the time. Mr. Fells also said in the information that the entrance to the crack would move. I think the entrance to the crack is related to this spatial fluctuation. The crack that Mr. Fells entered is a space. AISI nodded, and then said her speculation. It is indeed very likely. After all, it is very wrong for the entrance to move. If it is a different space, then it can be explained. After hearing what AISI said, Finn thought for a moment, and then said, since AISI felt it, let's go and see it later. Whether it is the crack or not, we should also explore the cause of the spatial fluctuation. Morningstar also spoke up, and made the final decision. Everyone had no objection to what he said, because everyone cared about it. Everyone rested for an hour, ate something to replenish themselves, and then moved again. Isai led the way, and everyone came to a place under the leadership of Isai. It's just in front, and it's still moving now. In a passage, Isai pointed to the wall of the passage in front and said to everyone, Isai, use your space power to inject it into the location where the space fluctuation is, and see if it works. Everyone looked at each other, and then Chenxing spoke to Isai. Well, okay. Isai nodded after hearing this. Then, Isai walked forward and put her hand on the wall. However, the location of the wall that Isai was holding was not the place that Isai had just said, but a little forward. It seems that it is really moving as Isai said, and the probability of it being the entrance to the gap is almost certain. Isai did not hesitate to put her hand on the wall and directly infused her space power into the wall. Buzz! Without any signs, the originally ice-blue wall suddenly broke apart, and then a blue light circle 2 people high appeared in front of everyone. Portal. Seeing this light circle, Chenxing's eyebrows jumped. It seems that it is indeed the entrance. Finn was also surprised. 850. The others were also surprised. Livalia took 2 steps at a time and ran over quickly. Thank you, Ace. After thanking Ace, Livalia stepped forward to enter the light circle. However, before she took a step, Livalia was pulled back. I don't know what the situation is inside. It's too dangerous for you to go in. I'll go in first. Morningstar grabbed Livalia and said to Livalia, No one knew what the situation was inside, and Livalia was a magician, she was fragile, and she ran in casually, because she was reckless. After being said by Morningstar, Livalia finally reacted and apologized. Sorry, I was too impatient. Morningstar is right, Livalia, let Morningstar and Grace, Bert, and others go in first, and then you and Lefia, Dione, Diona, and others, I and Ace, Alish, and others will be the rear guard. Finn came over and arranged quietly. Everyone had no objection and followed Finn's arrangement. Morningstar, Grace, and Bert stepped back in. A few seconds later, Dione and Diona led Livalia, Lefia, Anne, and Lashia into the light circle. Finally, it was Finn's turn. Buzz? On the other side of the light circle, Morningstar, Grace, and Bert were stunned as soon as they stepped in. Because in front of Morningstar and others, there was a giant cocoon emitting light blue light, and the light of the giant cocoon flickered, with intervals. It flickered like a beating heart. So big. Bert couldn't help shouting out as he looked at the huge cocoon of light in front of him. What is this? Even the calm Grace couldn't help shouting out. It's too big, this giant cocoon is too big, twice as big as the behemoth they just destroyed. As Grace's voice fell, Livalia and others appeared in the light circle behind the three people one after another. Everyone who entered here was shocked and exclaimed after seeing the giant cocoon in front of them. Chapter 216 Good Luck or Bad Luck? That's what happened. What do you think? If you want, I will negotiate with Morningstar and let you join after Morningstar and the others are back together. In the underground altar, Uranus looked at the people below and said lightly. Uranus asked Fels to invite Freya. Fels invited Freya and the first-level adventurers of Freya's family. Freya, Ota, and others witnessed Finn and others desperate fighting under the gate of the heaven of Morningstar, watching them join forces to kill Behemoth. Fels brought Ota and others with him, which Uranus did not expect. However, what Fels did was very good and very wonderful. He did not expect that he could do this. Let Ota and others witness the battle of Finn and others, witness the adventure of Finn and others. He did not believe that Ota and others would sit still. The battle of Finn and others was so fierce that anyone who was not a fool knew that their grace ability value would definitely increase greatly after they returned from the expedition. After all, Finn and others on the screen people are all gifted, and it is impossible for them not to improve after such a battle, and their improvement will be very terrifying. Ota and others do not want to be left behind by Finn and others, so they can only follow the expedition. After all, it is only the members of Freya's family who are on the expedition. Without the heavenly gate of Morningstar, Ota and others cannot fight as recklessly as Finn and others just did. Without such a powerful combat aid as Morningstar, how can they fight with Finn and others like this? No matter how hard they fight, they have to hold back, otherwise it really is not their own. My Morningstar is really powerful. After watching the battle on the screen, and seeing Morningstar sitting on the light and using the gate of heaven to cover the entire battlefield with a calm face in a sporadic video, Freya almost became a nympho. Uranus, Ra, Ota and others. The Lord God is really in love with this guy Morningstar, but they just can't hate him at all. Because Morningstar is stronger than them, so strong that they are convinced and have no dissatisfaction. The Lord God likes such a powerful existence, why should they be dissatisfied? Ota and others didn't want to pay attention to the love of their Lord God, and began to ponder one by one. To be honest, after seeing the battle of Finn and others, they were all very envious, even Ota was the same. Who doesn't want to have someone standing behind them who can make them have no backs? What about Guzayu's assistance? They also hope so. They have a golden witch named Hisai who has very powerful healing magic, but Hisai's healing magic can never reach the level of Morningstar. Her ability is just the same as that of Saint Emide on the battlefield. They are not opposed to Morningstar. They also hope to enter the deep layer with Morningstar. However, they are very reluctant to enter the deep layer with members of Loki's family. After all, they are enemies and have fought before. Even the black and white goblins Hadine and Haga do not reject Livalia, and even respect Livalia, but they are also unhappy with other people in Loki's family. Although they will not fight as soon as they meet, they really can't cooperate. Don't think about it, I'll make the decision on this matter. If Uranus can convince Morningstar and Loki, then Freya's family will join the next expedition. Just when Ota and others were struggling, Freya had recovered from her infatuation and said with a smile, Lady Freya. Ota and others frowned instinctively. Why, my words don't work. Freya turned her head and looked at Ota and others, smiled charmingly, and said, that's not the case. Hadine shook his head instinctively. Or do you want to be completely abandoned by the people of Loki's family? After watching the battle in front of you, you should know that the torrent has begun to sweep. If you don't move forward with this torrent, you will only be abandoned by this new era. After Hadine's voice fell, Freya spoke again, looking at Ota and others with a smile. Hearing this, Ota and others were silent. Because it is indeed the truth. Since you have no objection, then the matter is settled. Uranus, I'll leave this matter to you. Seeing that Ota and others were speechless, Freya nodded with satisfaction, then turned around, looked at Uranus, and said with a smile. Ota and others did not refute Freya's decision, and seemed to acquiesce in Freya's approach. Leave this matter to me. Seeing this, Uranus nodded slightly and agreed. Uranus, you brought my family in because you want Ota and others to improve together, and then fight the Black Dragon together. Then why not bring the Kali family in? That little guy's family has 4.6. After Uranus agreed, Freya asked curiously. That guy's family has been in conflict with Loki's family continuously. I don't know if Loki can be persuaded. Besides, the Kali family has just joined Orario after all, and I don't trust them for the time being. Uranus shook his head slightly and said lightly, yes, the Kali clan is indeed in trouble. Freya nodded in agreement. Then, Freya turned her head to look at the screen, watching Morningstar and others resting on the screen, and spoke again in a low voice, Uranus, you watched the whole expedition of Morningstar, right? Tell me about their previous experiences. Even if you don't mention it, I will tell you. Freya, something is wrong. A new behemoth was born in the dungeon, you have just witnessed it with your own eyes. But before that, Morningstar and others encountered a mutation floor on the 59th floor, where a Leve-8 monster and a black dragon of the same origin as the one-eyed black dragon were born. OTA and others heard Uranus when it was said that a monster of level 8 appeared on the 59th floor. The eyes of several people lit up, and they were full of excitement, the excitement of eagerness to fight. However, Uranus's subsequent words made them stunned, and their pupils shrank. It's a black dragon. Even OTA was shocked at this time. The black dragon was the culprit who wiped out Zeus and Hera's family. The appearance of a new behemoth was fine, but I didn't expect that this thing would appear in the 59th room on the previous floor. 2 of the 3 major commissions appeared. Is there going to be another Leviathan? It's the black dragon. That black dragon is only level 8, but the dungeon is trying its best to protect it. Even if Morningstar took action, the black dragon still escaped and fled to a deeper floor. I suspect the dungeon is planning something. Is that so? How interesting. Freya narrowed her eyes at this time, and after hearing Uranus's story, a smile flashed in her eyes. When Morningstar and others come back from the deep, I will use my divine power to explore the deep dungeon, even if it causes a riot in the dungeon. Uranus nodded slightly and said, it's time to check it out. After all, the agreed time is almost up, and there can't be any more trouble. Freya agreed with Uranus' decision. After the words fell, Freya did not speak again, and quietly watched the screen, not ready to leave. Uranus and Fels did not care about it. Soon, Morningstar and others in the screen rested and started to act. Soon, Freya saw the picture of Isai opening the portal. It's a portal. Is there such a place in the dungeon? Seeing the appearance of the portal, Moria was seriously surprised. The people in the Earth realm do not have portals at all, only the Heaven realm has them. They are set up by the gods, and the gods use them to visit each other and travel between the various realms of the gods. I didn't expect it to appear in the dungeon. Uranus was not surprised, because the report that Cyrus brought back mentioned the existence of the portal. However, soon, Uranus was not calm. What is this? Uranus couldn't help shouting at the giant light cocoon that appeared. The expressions of Freya and others were not much different from Uranus. They were all stunned and looked at the huge light cocoon in the picture with great surprise. Uranus and others were shocked, but Chenxing and others didn't know. However, Chenxing and others had similar reactions to Uranus and others. Chenxing was also very surprised at this time. I didn't expect that there would be such a huge light cocoon in the gap between the 60th floor and the 61st floor. Nords. Looking at the situation, you can see at a glance what is being nurtured in this light cocoon. Fels, did this light cocoon appear when you first entered here? In the underground altar, Uranus turned around and asked Fels immediately after a brief surprise. No, the space there is very large and complicated. When I first entered it, I didn't see anything, just a dead space. If I really found this, I would have recorded it a long time ago. Fels shook his head and answered in a surprised tone. It seems that Morningstar and others should have reached the center of the gap. Hearing what Fels said, Uranus thought thoughtfully. Indeed, Morningstar and others have indeed entered the center of this space. Such a big cocoon is here, who would believe that it is not the center? What a strong breath, not weaker than Behemoth at all. In the azure space, Finn and others came back to their senses after a brief shock. Finn frowned and said, indeed, this is the 4th 4.8 level monster we encountered on this expedition. Alice, who was standing aside, put one hand on her waist, a smile on her lips, and said with a smile, should I say it's good luck or bad luck? Kagaya on the side smiled helplessly. Of course it's good luck. Who can encounter so many 4.8? Chapter 217, The Spirit Seal. The existence in this light cocoon should not make any movement for the time being. Let's not alarm this guy for the time being. Finish Livalia's business first. Chenxing was also surprised that there was such a large light cocoon in the gap, which was obviously pregnant with monsters, but Chenxing was not going to move the light cocoon for the time being, but was going to finish Livalia's business first. After all, the purpose of finding this gap this time was related to Livalia. The relics of Livalia's mother were found in this gap, and many members of Zeus's family and Hera's family also disappeared here. Well, help explore this place first. Finn also nodded in agreement. Others had no objection to this. Thank you. Livalia didn't say much, just said thank you sincerely. Everyone nodded, and then began to observe the surrounding situation. The place where Chenxing and others were located was a huge cave room, which was connected in all directions. The huge reminder of the light cocoon blocked the sight of Chenxing and others, making Chenxing and others unable to see the environment behind the light cocoon. But there are nearly 1,000 passages on the side of Chenxing and others. Everyone looked at each other, and then began to disperse and explore this huge cave. Everyone was divided into 2 teams, and they searched around the light cocoon from the left and right sides. However, soon, Vilya found something wrong. There was also a cry from Leviathan, who was moving with Finn. What's wrong? Chenxing frowned slightly and asked Livalaya, who was stunned. Livalaya didn't say anything, just half squatted down and gently touched the ground with her hand. And Leviathan on the other side seemed to be doing the same. In an instant, a ray of light spread out from Livalaya's hand to both sides, spreading to the opposite side in a circular arc. And the same thing happened on Leviathan's side. The speed was so fast that almost in the blink of an eye, the 2 rays of light connected together, and then burst into a fierce light. A magic circle appeared on the ground. Everyone looked at this scene in surprise. This is a sealing magic circle that has been passed down by the Elven royal family for thousands of years. It was passed down by the Elven saint. It is said that it was learned from the fairy. Looking at the magic circle that appeared on the ground, Livalaya murmured in a low voice. Lady Livalaya taught me this and said it was used for sealing, but I didn't learn it, but I remember this and know how to trigger it. On the other side, facing everyone's doubts, Lefia also spoke. Is it really like this? I didn't expect it to be this magic. It seems that Livalaya's mother did appear here. Let's go back and meet Livalaya and the others, and ask Livalaya what to do. Finn nodded in understanding, and then said. Everyone had no objection to this, and the group began to return and walked towards the place where they had just separated. The same was true for Morningstar. Fels, did you find this at the beginning? In the underground altar, Uranus turned to look at Fels after listening to Livalaya's words and asked. Not at all. I didn't even reach this place at the beginning. Not long after I entered here, I encountered many aquatic and ice monsters. I avoided them with the help of the invisible magic item, but was soon forced out by a strong impact. Now that I think about it, the strong impact that forced me out should have been caused by the giant cocoon. Fels shook his head and said lightly. Hearing this, Uranus nodded slightly and didn't ask any more questions. Freya, Ota, and others looked at Fels with some surprise, but didn't say anything. On the other side, in the gap of the 60th floor, Morningstar and others reunited again. Livalaya, what are your plans? After the reunion, Daan directly asked Livixia how she was going to deal with this matter. This magic circle was left by my mother, and it seals this giant cocoon. According to the period when my mother and her friends lived, the Zeus family and the Hera family were not that powerful, and the strongest was only 4.7, not even the Empress and the heroes. My mother and her friends should not have been able to deal with this giant cocoon, so they tried their best and chose to seal it. This seal is still intact even after decades. I want to complete what my mother did to destroy this giant cocoon. However, before that, I want to continue searching to see if I can find more things left by my mother. I want to find out why my mother couldn't leave here after sealing this giant cocoon. Livalaya nodded slightly, and then said, in that case, let's act separately as before. Use the communication orb to contact as soon as possible when something happens, is that okay? Finn nodded after hearing this, then glanced at everyone and spoke. No problem. Everyone had no objection. Then, the group did not delay and divided into teams again. They found a passage and began to explore. Not long after they entered the passage, they all encountered monsters. It was the monster that appeared on the 60th floor. I don't know why it didn't appear in the cave just now, but appeared after everyone entered the passage. Chenxing guessed that it was probably because of the power of the giant in the cave. Chenxing didn't care much about it. Everyone started their own battles. However, not long after the battle, a shockwave spread from the direction of the cave and spread to various passages. The shockwave was very strong, and Ankai and others were affected. They almost couldn't keep their bodies steady and were taken advantage of by the monster. Fortunately, there were people like Finn who were not affected, so there was not much trouble. Even if the mother set up a sealing array, this situation still occurred. In the passage, Livalaya felt the shock wave sweeping over her body and murmured in disbelief. Okay, forget about it, and continue. Chenxing reached out and patted Livalaya's shoulder, and said softly to comfort her. Yeah. Livalaya calmed down after hearing that, and hummed softly, and then chanted again. Chapter 218, Luck, Unsealing the Seal, and the Remaining Light and Shadow. Chenxing was curious about what kind of monster was bred in the huge light cocoon. Chenxing saw that the magic array inherited by the Elven royal family was very strong. Even after decades, it still had a very strong sealing power. The creature bred in the light cocoon exuded the breath of a monster comparable to that of 4.8, but it was sealed by the inherited magic array of the Elven royal family for decades. Even now, it has not been able to escape. It seems that the only thing that the giant cocoon can do is to release a strong shock wave like before, and then it has no other ability. Before the sealing magic array was unlocked, the creature in the giant cocoon posed no threat. Chenxing and others explored various channels and contacted each other during the period. However, including the battle, the group explored for 2 hours and still did not find anything. It seems that the only things left by the Zeus family and the Hera family were those that were taken out by Fels. 2 hours of no gain made Livalaya a little disappointed. However, everyone continued to explore. Because of this gap, the crowd did not explore it completely. The area of the gap is very large, and the passage is very complicated. Even though they were divided into several teams, it still took them 5 hours to explore all the places in this gap. However, the situation is still not very good, and no clues were found. Go back. Livalia's face was hard to hide the loss, and she said to the communication bead in a low voice. Let's get together. Finn's voice came from the communication bead. Received. Okay. Then, Leonie and Ace voices sounded respectively. Let's go. After contacting several other teams, Livalia said to Morningstar. Well. Morningstar nodded slightly, and then the group of people rushed to the direction of the cave they had entered before. During the 5 hours of searching, in addition to exploring the passage, Morningstar also used dark magic to wrap himself up during the rest time updated 10 graces. Morningstar's grace ability value has increased a lot, but it has not reached the limit, so the monster in the cave, Morningstar is ready to do it himself. Morningstar. 4.6. Strength, H109 Rightward Arrow SSS 1568. Durability, H130 SSS 1589. Dexterity, H119 SSS 1580. Agility, H120 Rightward Arrow SSS 1602. Magic, B739 SSS 1999. Upgrade. Optional development ability, Divine Power, God Killing, Divine Healing. Development ability, Magic B, Luck D, Refined Healing G, Berserker F. Magic. Thought Body, Son of Light, Son of Darkness. Skills. Reincarnation I, Blessing of the God of War, Flame of the Sky. The magic power has reached the limit, which is normal. After all, Morningstar has opened the gate of heaven countless times. Each time it takes more than a few hours. There are 3 improvements in development ability. Magic and Berserker each upgraded by 1 level, which is also normal. Magic is because of the Gate of Heaven, and Berserker is because of the previous battle with the Black Dragon and the Giant Tree on the 59th floor. But the improvement of luck is something Morningstar doesn't understand, and he opened 2 in a row. Level. However, Chenxing had a guess in his heart. His luck was indeed playing its role, making his luck better. And the specific manifestation of the improvement was that he encountered several monsters with strengths as high as 4.8 in a row along the way. There was a change in the 59th floor, and monsters of level 4.8 appeared. This thing was originally impossible, but it did happen, and 2 of them appeared at once. Originally, Chenxing just felt surprised, but after updating the grace, he saw that his luck had improved, and it was improved by 2 levels at once, and Chenxing suspected this ability. Because during the period when he started the expedition, he had not there is no place where luck is supercharged. The only situation that can be called super lucky is the encounter with the 4.8 level monster. 4.8 level monsters may be very dangerous to others, but to Morningstar, they are just food for the birds. Moreover, they are exactly the growth resources that Birdstar needs. When Morningstar needs growth resources, they suddenly come to the door. Isn't this luck? Originally, Morningstar didn't plan to increase his ability value too much in this expedition. He just planned to conquer the floors, go deeper, and then find the floors where 4.7 level monsters appear, and use a large number of 4.7 level monsters to exercise grace. But now, because of the appearance of 2 4.8 monsters, Morningstar doesn't need these at all, and his ability value has increased so much. Isn't this lucky? The previous Behemoth Morningstar gave it to Finn and the others. Now this unknown monster, Morningstar is going to keep it for himself. After fighting with this monster again, his ability value will definitely reach the limit of 4.6, and then upgrade. The time of reunion was not long, just half an hour. Everyone gathered in the cave where the giant cocoon was again. The giant cocoon was still releasing powerful shock waves regularly. Morningstar and others just came back and suffered a wave of shock waves. Morningstar, this monster, do you want to do it? Looking at the behemoth in front of him, Finn asked Morningstar. The eyes of others also instantly shifted to Morningstar. Well, leave it to me. I think my ability value needs to continue to improve. I guess my ability value should be able to reach the limit after fighting with this big guy. Morningstar nodded and directly indicated that he would do it. In that case, then this monster will be handed over to Morningstar. Do you have any objections? Finn nodded after hearing this, then looked at everyone and questioned them. No problem, since Morningstar, sir, wants it, then give it to Morningstar, sir. Everyone nodded and said in unison. They had just teamed up to deal with a behemoth, and now they encountered a new 4.8 monster, and it should be Morningstar's turn to take action. Then, I will unlock the magic circle next. When the time comes, this gestating monster will be handed over to you, Morningstar. Livalia looked at Morningstar and said to him with a serious expression. Yes. Morningstar nodded slightly, took out the Vongola gloves and put them on his hands, then entered the super dead air mode and was ready to go. Seeing Morningstar like this, everyone's eyes lit up slightly. Morningstar looked really handsome, especially those orange-red eyes, which were uniquely charming. Livalia was no exception. 0. However, Livalia was only slightly surprised, and then she began to remove the magic circle. Livalia half-crouched down, one hand pressed the magic circle that had never darkened since it was activated, and muttered an unknown spell in a low voice. As Livalia's spell sounded, the magic circle burst into a fierce light, and then, a few seconds later, the magic circle broke with a crisp sound turned into light. Yamada. Buzz? The sealed magic circle broke, and the giant cocoon sealed in it suddenly burst into a fierce light. However, everyone didn't care about these at all at this time. The attention of Chenxing and others was attracted by the emerald green figure in front of Livalaya at this time. The figure in front of Livalaya had a very similar appearance to Livalaya, with pointed elf ears and emerald green hair like Livalaya. Her long hair was draped behind her, and it was clear that she had a deep relationship with Livalaya. Everyone knew the identity of the light and shadow that suddenly appeared in front of them without guessing. Mother. Looking at the figure that appeared in front of her, Livalaya couldn't help but murmured in a low voice. It must be Livalaya that can dispel this magic. This child has come here. Livalaya, this magic circle was set up by us at the cost of our lives. It can bind this monster for 50 years. You must have reached 4.7 to be able to dispel this magic circle. If you have other 4.7 around you, you can try to deal with this monster. If not, Livalaya, try your best to escape, don't die here. The light and shadow seemed to be the influence of some special magic left over. After appearing, it said something with a smile on its face. As soon as the words were spoken, the light and shadow bag suddenly exploded, turning into emerald green light spots that drifted away with the wind. The speed was so fast that Livalaya didn't have time to react. Livalaya just stretched out her hand and wanted to touch the light and the light and shadow had already exploded, causing Livalaya's hand to freeze in midair. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them, and no one spoke. They all knew that Livalaya must be in a bad mood at this time. However, Chenxing and others did not speak to disturb Livalaya, but the giant light yellow that was unsealed would not be so quiet. Not long after the seal was lifted, a crisp breaking sound came from the giant light cocoon. The sound attracted everyone's attention. I saw that a huge crack had appeared on the giant light cocoon at this time, and a breath of frost leaked out of the giant cocoon and spread out. Seeing this scene, everyone knew that the sealed monster was about to be born. Everyone's eyes unconsciously looked at Chenxing. Morning Star, I'll leave this guy to you. Livalaya also came back to her senses from her sadness at this time, looking at Morning Star, and said in a low voice, leave this guy to me. Morning Star smiled and responded. As Morning Star's voice fell, the light cocoon moved again. There was another very loud breaking sound. And then, bang! With a loud bang, the fragments of the giant cocoon burst out in all directions, revealing the monster bred in it. After seeing the true face of this monster, Finn and the other two couldn't help shouting out again. Leviathan. Everyone. 7. Chapter 219 Finn's Guess, Direct Access to the 65th Floor. Behemoth, Leviathan, Black Dragon, what on earth is this dungeon guy going to do? Uranus murmured in a low voice on the altar. There is no problem with the contract. Now the only one-eyed black dragon is left of the three major commissions. The newly appeared Leviathan and Behemoth are not in the contract. Freya was also lost in thought at this time, rubbing her chin and muttering in a low voice. Obviously, she didn't understand why the dungeon gave birth to the three major commissions again. The three major commissions are all enhanced species that can be swallowed and strengthened. They can swallow magic stones to become stronger. They are different from ordinary monsters, especially those who are born at the level of 4.8 and leave 8. The consumption of birth is very large. Although the dungeon gives birth to monsters every day, no matter how many monsters are born, they will not cause too much consumption to the dungeon. As soon as those monsters were born, they recovered. But monsters like the three major commissions, even the dungeon, consume a lot. But now the three major commissions have been born again. Freya couldn't figure out why. What worries me more is that the birth of this Leviathan can be traced back to 50 years ago. According to Livalaya, its mother, Clarice, set this seal 50 years ago, which means that Leviathan was born 50 years ago. And Behemoth and the Black Dragon were definitely born recently, otherwise they would have grown up long ago with the special characteristics of Behemoth and the Black Dragon. Uranus said, indeed, in terms of the time of birth, the three cannot be linked together at all. Uranus, I'll trouble you to investigate when the time comes. Freya nodded in agreement. I know. Then, Freya suddenly felt something and looked at Ota and others who had not been involved in the conversation between her and Uranus. At this sight, Freya's mouth curled up immediately. These guys under her command seemed to be really looking forward to the expedition later, and now they are already showing that they can't wait. Not far away, Ota and the others all had their eyes flashing with fierce light, and their bodies were wrapped with fighting spirit. As a goddess of beauty and a female warrior, she was very familiar with fighting spirit. Then, she looked at the screen. At this sight, Freya couldn't help but narrow her eyes, and the smile on her mouth was more obvious than before. What a heroic figure, my morning star, Freya murmured in a low voice, and her hand was on her chest. On the screen at this time, Morning Star was fighting with Leviathan. At this time, Uranus' voice sounded again and reached Freya's ears. Hey, Freya, don't you think there is something wrong with Morning Star? What do you mean? Freya was still admiring Morning Star's heroic figure. When she heard this, her brows suddenly frowned, and even Ota and others beside her were attracted. Luck, Morning Star has great luck. I didn't think of this at first, but now I understand. Meeting several Leave 8 monsters in a row is a very scary thing for other people. Even your Freya family needs to be careful to deal with it. If you are not careful, you will be wiped out. But for Morning Star, it was a long-awaited achievement. It was exactly the monster he needed. And even Finn and the others benefited greatly from it. Morning Star has the ability or skill related to luck, and it is a positive influence. With this ability, Morning Star may be able to achieve his dreams to some extent. Freya fell silent when she heard this, because she found that what Uranus said was right. According to what Uranus said, Morning Star's situation can indeed be said to be good luck. But she did not say anything, did not respond to Uranus, and turned to continue watching the screen. Not far away, Ota and others narrowed their eyes after hearing this. They did not expect this. But if it is really as Uranus said, then the benefits they can get from following Morning Star on an expedition in the future will definitely be terrible. Morning Star does not know what happened on the ground. At this time, Morning Star has used Leviathan as a stepping stone to hone his grace ability value. In one of the many passages connected to the cave, Finn and others are gathering here to watch the battle. That's right, this posture is the same as the information given by Zeus's family and Hera's family. The sea monster, with wings on its back, scales all over its body, and a large number of spikes under its belly, is indeed Leviathan. With his spear resting on the ice, Finn put one hand on his waist, looking at the battle between the man and the beast in the cave, and said calmly, "I didn't expect that your mother, Livalia, sealed Leviathan. I didn't expect that either. We actually encountered all three commissions during this trip." Livalia frowned and said lightly, "In fact, I have always been curious why the three commissions were born on this floor." At this time, Alicia also spoke up, frowning and touching her chin. "According to your guess, which floor should the three commissions be born on?" Everyone looked over, and Finn asked with a smile. "At least it should be after the 71st floor, a floor that Zeus and Hera's family have not conquered." Alicia said her thoughts truthfully. Everyone nodded unconsciously to Alicia's words. Because in their cognition, the three commissions are so terrible monsters, and they really shouldn't be born so carelessly on the 59th, 60th and 61st floors. But they happened to meet them on these floors. I think so too. But the three major commissions were indeed born on these floors, and we witnessed it, and we even joined forces to kill Behemoth. I don't know why the dungeon gave birth to the three new commissions, but I have a guess about the three major commissions being born on these floors. Finn nodded in agreement, and then said, "What guess?" Everyone heard this and immediately asked curiously. "My guess is related to the Fallen Fairy. The Fallen Fairy can parasitize monsters and merge the clones to form a clone comparable to the Leve 8 level. This can be compared to the ability of the dungeon to give birth to monsters to some extent. So, I guess that the Fallen Fairy has a very strong position in the deeper floors, a position that even the dungeon can't do anything about. The Fallen Fairy may be a very terrible overlord in the deeper floors. In addition to the special nature of its parasitism, I guess that the dungeon may be worried that the three new commissions it has given birth to will be parasitized by the Fallen Fairy using the parasitic orb. So, the birthplace was chosen on these floors. These floors should be the floors that the Fallen Fairy cannot come up. The reason may be that the underground city restricts the Fallen Fairy from running to the upper floors. When the Fallen Fairy ran away, its body did not run up, which may be the reason." After listening to Finn's analysis, everyone fell silent. On the ground, in the underground altar, Uranus and others also heard Finn's analysis. "What do you think, Freya?" Uranus looked at Freya and asked her. "It is very likely." Freya's brows were slightly relaxed, and then she smiled. Her analysis of the Fallen Fairy was the same. In fact, the underground city restricted it. Now Finn has linked the birth of the three major commissions on these floors with the Fallen Fairy, which is not impossible. Zhou Feng also thinks it is very likely. Over the years, in order to prevent the dungeon from rioting, I have not explored the dungeon too much, so I didn't even know that there was a Fallen Fairy in the depths of the dungeon. And now, three new commissions have appeared under my nose. Uranus nodded slightly, then sighed. Freya didn't care about Uranus' sigh, and turned her eyes back to the screen, focusing her eyes on the morning star on the screen of the village. Bang! In the gap between the 60th and 61st floors, a few hours passed in a flash. After Morning Star squeezed out all the value of Leviathan, it solved Leviathan very neatly. "It's over." Seeing this scene, the people who had been watching the battle smiled one by one, and some even stretched their waists. 2.2 Although the battle is quite exciting, it is still boring to watch it all the time. After putting away the magic stone of Leviathan, Morning Star appeared in front of Finn and others. "Do you need to rest?" Finn asked with a smile when he saw Morning Star appear. "No, let's go directly. You have been watching for so long, I believe you have rested enough, now let's go directly to the 61st floor. Morning Star shook his head and said with a smile. Let's do it." Finn heard the words, glanced at everyone, and found that everyone had no objection, so he smiled and nodded. Then, everyone left this place from the exit opened by AISI using the space ability, and headed directly to the 61st floor. The monsters on the 61st floor are no different from those on the 60th floor. The monsters are the same in strength and type. As soon as they entered the 61st floor, everyone soon encountered monsters and started a fierce battle. A battle lasted for more than 6 hours, and then Morning Star and others entered a new floor again, the 62nd floor. Then it was 63, 64, and 65 which took up a lot of the Lord's time. "Let's stop here for now." Looking tired, Finn glanced at the people who looked similar to him and said softly, Chapter 220, Return, Goodbye to Aegina, Hephaestus's Hope. Morning Star didn't feel tired, but the others were different. Even with Morning Star opening the gate of heaven to restore them, everyone was exhausted after 2 days of high-intensity fighting. After attacking the 65th floor in one breath, They needed to find the key for the next floor, and their weapons were also seriously worn out. It was time to start the return journey. Everyone agreed with Finn's proposal. Without any delay, everyone set out on the return journey. However, the return journey did not require everyone to continue running. Everyone sat directly on the flying magic cast by Morningstar and flew all the way back, without having to fight all the way back like they did when they came. Morningstar's flying magic was extremely fast. In just 2 hours, he flew all the way from the 65th floor to the 50th floor. Everyone is back. At the entrance of the passage from the 50th floor to the 51st floor, Raoul, who had been waiting here and defending, shouted excitedly after seeing the figures of Morningstar and others. In an instant, everyone stationed on the cliff platform heard this figure, and one by one put down the things in their hands and quickly came over. We are back. Looking at the crowd, Finn said with a smile. Oh. The next second, cheers resounded throughout the cliff. To celebrate everyone's safe return, let's have a party. After the cheers, Shithand shouted loudly. Oh, let's have a party. The cheers that had just stopped rang out again. Morningstar and others were surrounded by many clan members who had left their hands and returned to the 26 camp. Many members acted quickly one by one, and prepared the needs for the banquet with clear division of labor. Soon, a banquet began. At night, Morningstar sat in his tent. Dark magic wrapped around the entire tent, and Morningstar renewed his grace again. Without any surprises, Morningstar's ability values were all full, reaching SSS 1999. Morningstar did not hesitate and upgraded directly, and chose Divine Healing to develop his ability. Let's go and test Hephaestus after we go back this time. If it works, then heal Hephaestus' face. If it doesn't work, there's nothing we can do. Chenxing muttered inwardly, looking at the extra development ability Divine Healing on the updated grace paper in his hand. Immediately, Chenxing began to feel the improvement in his strength after this update. Without any surprise, Chenxing's strength has reached the level of 4.9. He already has the strength of 4.9 in just the normal state. Chenxing tested the Samsara I mode again. Still without any surprise, the Samsara I mode can no longer increase Chenxing's strength, and the same is true for the Super Death Chi mode. However, the power of the special moves of the two modes is absolutely powerful. After igniting the Death Chi flame, Chenxing's strength suddenly increased a lot. Chenxing didn't know how strong it was, but it was much stronger than the strength increase when he ignited the Death Chi flame in 4.6. Chenxing estimated that his current strength was about the limit of the ability value of an ordinary 4.9 adventurer reaching S. After muttering a few words in his heart, Chenxing lit the paper of favor and burned it, then lay down on the bed, staring at the top of the tent for a long time and then slowly closed his eyes. Since they have returned to the 50th floor, it naturally means that Chenxing and others' expedition this time is over. The next day, everyone began to pack up the camp and set off on the return journey. The way back was the same as the way here, fighting all the way back. Finn and others have gained enough training, but the members who stayed behind have not. Chenxing doesn't mind wasting a few more days. Opening the gate of heaven, Chenxing looked at the many family members fighting hard on the battlefield, but his mind flew to the ground. It's been almost half a month, Lily and the others should have upgraded. Belle should be too. Let's take them with us on the next expedition. It took 5 days on the way back. When they stepped on the ground again, Chenxing and others were a little dazed. Go back. Finn greeted softly inside the Tower of Babel, and then took the lead to walk outside. Seeing this, everyone followed. At this time, there were many adventurers staying under the Tower of Babel besides Morningstar and others. The return of Morningstar and others naturally attracted everyone's attention. Many adventurers near the exit were looking at Morningstar and others at this time. For these eyes, whether it was Morningstar, Loki's family, the group, or Astria's family, they were already immune. Everyone stepped out of the Tower of Babel. Just like the situation inside the Tower of Babel, Morningstar and others were still the focus of everyone after leaving the Tower of Babel. Many people were whispering in the square and on both sides of the street. But Chenxing didn't care about it. Chenxing's eyes were attracted by a figure at this time. Finn, you go first. Looking at the voice standing quietly not far away, Chenxing called to Finn and others. Finn and others were a little surprised, but after seeing Aegina standing where Chenxing's eyes were, they understood, nodded, and continued to move forward. Chenxing left the main force and walked towards Aegina. Hey, long time no see, Aegina. Standing in front of Aegina, Chenxing greeted with a smile. Well, long time no see, Chenxing. Aegina smiled back and said softly, in the blink of an eye, you have become an adventurer who can stand on your own. I can't help you at all. Looking at Chenxing in front of her, Aegina's smile hid a hint of loss. She is an adventurer consultant, who assists new adventurers in their growth and gives various suggestions. She is also Morningstar's adventurer consultant, but the number of times she has helped Morningstar is very few. This makes her feel very uncomfortable. If possible, she hopes that she can always help Morningstar, because only in this way, the connection between her and Morningstar will not be broken. However, now it seems that she is a little whimsical. Let's go, I will report to you my experience of this expedition, my adventurer consultant. Morningstar naturally saw Aegina's loss, stretched out his hand and gently rubbed Aegina's hair, and then said softly. Hearing what Morningstar said, Aegina was stunned, and then a happy smile appeared on her face. Ah, come with me, Morningstar. Tell me your experience completely. It seems that this connection will never be broken. After staying at the guild headquarters for 2 hours, Morning Star said goodbye to Aegina and returned to the library. Hestia was already sitting at the door of the library, looking at both sides of the street expectantly. It was obvious that she already knew that Chenxing and others had returned, and was waiting for Chenxing's return. After seeing Chenxing's figure appear, Hestia almost rushed towards Chenxing, threw herself directly into Chenxing's arms, and hung herself on Chenxing. Chenxing, welcome back. Although Xiaoguang had been in contact with Chenxing, Hestia still couldn't help being excited about Chenxing's return. Yay, I'm back. Morning Star hugged Hestia, kissed her forehead gently, and said with a smile. The smile on Hestia's face was visibly brighter. Back to the library, Morning Star washed up first, and then prepared a sumptuous dinner for Hestia. Hestia was greedy for the food made by Morning Star, which she hadn't been late for half a month. However, before Hestia began to feast on it and swallowed it up like a whirlwind, 2 figures came uninvited. Hestia, it's not good to eat alone. Hephaestus entered the kitchen familiarly and said with a smile. Morning Star, have you prepared something for us? Next to him was Chun, who looked so greedy that he was about to drool. Oh, Hephaestus, Chun, you are here. Sasa, hurry up and sit down, eat together. Hestia was also very happy to see the two of them, and happily asked them to sit down. Well, it's ready. Let's eat together. Chenxing also nodded with a smile. Then I won't be polite. Chun heard the words, and her figure flashed, and she sat down quickly, then picked up the chopsticks and quickly stretched them out. Hephaestus also quickly sat down next to Hestia. The 3 of them quickly swept up the food on the table. Chenxing, you eat too. While eating, Tia did not forget to greet Chenxing who had not started eating. Well, eat now. Chenxing smiled and nodded, then picked up the chopsticks and followed them to feast. Soon, the full table of food was wiped out by Chenxing and the other 4. Hestia and the other 2 covered their school uniforms and leaned back on the chair, looking satisfied. Chenxing began to clean up the dishes and chopsticks, and spoke while cleaning up. Hey, Hephaestus, I have something to tell you later. What is it? You'll know in a moment. Morning Star smiled mysteriously, then put away the dishes and went into the kitchen to wash the dishes. Hestia, do you know why Morning Star wants to see me? Seeing Morning Star's look, Hephaestus raised her eyebrows, turned to look at Hestia, and asked. Oh, I don't know. And soon, Hephaestus knew what Morning Star wanted to see her about. You mean, you have gained a development ability that can heal gods, so you want to try to see if you can heal my face. In Morning Star's room, Hephaestus sat on a chair, looking at Morning Star, and confirmed with disbelief. Well, I'm not sure if it will work, do you want to try? Morning Star nodded, and then said. Try, as long as there is any glimmer of hope, I will try. Hephaestus came back to her senses, her eyes were firm, and she said decisively. Well, okay, let's try it. Chapter 221, The Raging Crowd, Night. The light after the development ability treatment is light green, while the light of the divine healing is golden. The golden light covered Hephaestus's face, and Hephaestus quickly felt the changes on her face. Her pupils visibly shrank, and her lips trembled slightly. It seems that my ability is useful to you. Looking at Hephaestus's reaction, Chenxing knew that the development ability divine healing he had just obtained was effective. Ah, it worked, I feel it. Please. Hearing Chenxing's words, Hephaestus smiled and thanked him warmly. Well. Morning Star nodded slightly, and then stopped talking, concentrating on healing Hephaestus' face. It must be said that the half of Hephaestus' face covered by the eye patch looked really ugly, it was simply horrible. Even though he had been mentally prepared, Morning Star was a little surprised when he saw it for the first time. But it was only a surprise for a moment. Under the light of divine healing, Morning Star watched Hestia recover little by little. This took 2 hours. During this period, Hestia and Chun, who were digesting food outside, found that the 2 had been staying in the room without leaving, and ran in worried that something had happened to them. However, after the 2 came in, they were surprised to find out what Morning Star and Hephaestus had done, and then they stayed quietly aside. Both Hestia and Sabeki were looking forward to it. Both of them were friends of Hephaestus, so they naturally hoped that Hephaestus' face could be cured. After Hephaestus' face completely recovered to the appearance of a normal person, not a normal god, Hestia and Sabeki rushed over immediately, squeezed Morning Star away, and caught Hephaestus who didn't know she had completely recovered. That's great, Hephaestus, your face is like ours, without scars, and you don't have to wear a mask anymore. Holding Hephaestus, Hestia jumped excitedly and announced loudly. Well, you don't have to wear a mask anymore, and I won't wear it either. Sabeki also said with a smile. Is it really healed? Hephaestus didn't dare to believe it for a while, and murmured in a low voice. Seeing Hephaestus like this, Hestia quickly pulled Hephaestus up and walked towards the floor-length mirror in the room. There was no such thing in Morning Star's room originally, and it was arranged after Hestia moved in. Standing in front of the floor-length mirror, Hephaestus looked at her intact face with a dull expression. After a long time, Hephaestus accepted the fact that her face was completely restored. Then, Hephaestus turned around suddenly and hugged Morning Star who came behind them. Morning Star, thank you so much. Hephaestus did not say too many words of thanks, but just rested her chin on Morning Star's shoulder and said thank you softly. Morning Star was slightly stunned, and then reacted, reaching out and patting Hephaestus' shoulder gently. You're welcome, after all, we are friends, right? Yeah, friends, maybe before, but now I don't want to be friends. Hestia and Chun watched this scene with a smile. Perhaps because Morningstar cured Hephaestus's face, Hephaestus came to visit more and more often. It can be said that she regarded the library of the star as her own home. She would come here every day, and sometimes even brought some documents to the library for processing. She came here to accompany Hestia under the pretext of accompanying him. As for the real purpose, Hestia knew it clearly, but she did not stop him. However, these are all later stories. During the time when Morningstar cured Hephaestus's face, similar scenes happened in the Dusk Hall of Loki's family and the new residence of Astria's family, the new Star Court. Oh, it's incredible, they have all been upgraded. What did you do? After returning from the expedition, Finn and others took a simple rest and washed up, and Loki couldn't wait to find Finn and others to update their favors. This update directly shocked Loki. Wow, Angel, Alicia, Bert, Dione, Diona, and several others have all been upgraded. They had just upgraded after returning from the last expedition. As a result, they all upgraded after another expedition. Angel and Alicia upgraded to 4.6, Bert, Dione and Diona directly upgraded to 4.7, and even the elf Lefia upgraded to 4.4 at this time, and the magic value reached $999. Others also upgraded at least 2 ability values to S. Although Finn, Grace, and Livalia did not upgrade, Finn and Grace's ability values were each increased by more than 2,000, and Livalia also increased by more than 1,000, raising her magic value to above A. Although Loki was full of expectations for this expedition and knew that Finn and his gains would definitely not be small, she did not expect it to be so exaggerated that she could not believe her eyes and wanted to escape from reality. Loki, this expedition is really thrilling. Let me tell you slowly, Finn said with a smile. Yes, tell me about it. Loki nodded repeatedly. On the other side, in the Garden of Stars, Australia also updated the grace of the Australia family on the expedition. The grace ability value of Leela and others has increased by more than 1,000, which has surprised Australia. I didn't expect that Leela and others would improve so much in one expedition. However, things are far from that. After updating Lu and the other two, Astria knew what a demon was. All 3 of them were upgraded. Alice and Kagaya both upgraded to 4.6 with double S ability values, and Lu even upgraded to triple S, directly from 4.6 to 4.7. Her own Astria family suddenly had an 4.7? You know, before Finn and the other 3 of Loki's family were upgraded, there was only one Leave 7 in the entire city, OTA, which was not even close to her. As a result, now, she suddenly got an 4.7 level family. Hehe, it's very shocking and touching. I had a hunch a long time ago that the 3 of us can definitely upgrade after this expedition. It's great to join the expeditionary force of Morningstar. Looking at the stunned Astria, Alice said proudly. For the first time, she knew that upgrading was so easy. All this was thanks to Morningstar. If it weren't for Morningstar assisting them, allowing them to fight without worries, they really wouldn't have been able to upgrade directly in one expedition. I'm so envious. If I were also a first-level adventurer, I would have participated in the previous great expedition. In that case, I would have upgraded directly now, Leela said enviously. Although the others didn't say anything, they all showed envy. Come on, given the current situation, as long as there is one more expedition, you should be able to upgrade again. When the 3rd expedition comes, you can follow us on the great expedition. Alicia encouraged with a smile. For the strategy after the 50th floor, Alicia and others call it the Great Expedition, which only first-level adventurers are eligible to join. Even if it's not the first level, it must have the first-level firepower, like Lefia. Ah, definitely. I can definitely upgrade in the next expedition. Lila raised a smile and said arrogantly. Alice, tell us about your great expedition. At this time, Astria spoke, smiling at Alice and the other 2. Well, okay. The scene returned to the library. After Hephaestus was cured by Morningstar, Hestia took her to her room, saying that she wanted to dress up Hephaestus. Hephaestus had never dressed up before, because of her face, she always wore light makeup, even when participating in the gods. Now that her face has been cured, Hestia naturally wants to dress up Hephaestus, and Chun also followed. As for Morningstar, Morningstar did not join in the fun. At this time, Morningstar was in her room, summoning her 2 elves. Xiaoguang and Xiaoan had both upgraded to 4.8 after devouring the magic stone of the fallen immortal's clone. This time, Chenxing took out the magic stones of Behemoth and Leviathan and gave them to the 2 to devour respectively. The magic stones of Behemoth and Leviathan are special magic stones, which are enhanced magic stones, and the quality they contain is very huge. Xiaoguang and Xiaoan fell into a deep sleep soon after devouring the magic stones of Behemoth and Leviathan respectively. It took more than 3 hours for Xiaoguang and Xiaoan to complete the devouring of the magic stones. Without any surprise, after devouring the magic stones of Behemoth and Leviathan, after the magic stone, Xiaoguang and Xiaoan's efforts were improved to 1v.9, good luck. After the 2 elemental elves completed the upgrade, Chenxing let them go back to their original places. Xiaoguang returned to Hestia's hair accessories, and Xiaoan followed the clone that was left at the heretic's place before and went back to watch the heretic. Chenxing, who had nothing to do, picked up the book that had been placed in front of the bedside table for so many days without any dust, and leaned against the bedside to read. After reading for more than half an hour, Chenxing turned off the lights and prepared to rest. However, not long after Chenxing turned off the lights, Chenxing heard the door being opened. The sound of opening, and then a figure slowly approached Chenxing's bed and lay down beside Chenxing. In his own home, Chenxing basically would not investigate anything, and thought that Hestia had returned, so he reached out and hugged her. However, this hug found something wrong. Hephaestus. Chenxing, don't move. On the other side, in Hestia's room, Hestia and Chun were lying on the bed. Hey, Hestia, I didn't expect you to be so open-minded, and actually took the initiative to let Hephaestus lie down. Chun looked at Hestia and said with a smile. Well, after all, Hephaestus is my best girlfriend. Chenxing is lucky. Then I can do it too, brother. You? Don't think I don't know that you often flirt with Chenxing. Ah, I was discovered, ahaha. Chapter 222 Daily Life. The next morning, Chenxing was dragged out by Hestia to go shopping. In the past, whenever he went to the dungeon for more than 2 days, Chenxing would be dragged out by Hestia to go shopping on the first day after returning, and this time was no exception. However, this time, Hephaestus and Sabaki were there. Speaking of which, where is Artemis? Why didn't I see her? Chenxing asked curiously while shopping. After returning to Orario, the Artemis family chose to base their family next to the library. This time when Chenxing came back, Artemis didn't show up, which surprised Chenxing a little. After all, with Artemis' current attitude towards Chenxing, it is impossible for her not to show up. Ah, she went to Demeter, and Letissa and the others also went to the dungeon. Hestia, who was walking in front, answered without looking back. Is that so? Chenxing nodded in realization. He said, how could Artemis not come if she knew she was coming back? It's another matter if she didn't know. The 4 of them spent the whole day strolling around the streets of Orario. They wandered until the evening, and then the 3 of them went home. When they returned to the library, Chenxing saw Artemis sitting at the door of the house next to him. Chenxing, Hestia, you are back. After seeing Chenxing and the others, Artemis' eyes lit up and she shouted loudly, and she ran towards Chenxing and the others quickly. However, although she shouted the names of Chenxing and Hestia, Artemis didn't care at all and plunged into Chenxing's arms. This made Hestia curl her lips in a bit of jealousy. Beside her, Hephaestus and Sabaki laughed evilly. Chenxing is really popular. Hephaestus poked Hestia's arm with her hand and whispered. Ah, you're so popular. You're also involved. I'm not surprised at Artemis' attitude. Hestia curled her lips again and said lightly. After a few simple chats, the few people entered the library. In other words, you hope that Letissa and others can join in the next expedition. Cac, no problem. In the library, listening to Artemis' request to let Chenxing take Letissa and others under her command, Chenxing agreed without hesitation. Anyway, he will take Belle and others with him on the next expedition, so Letissa and others are not a big deal. In addition, Letissa and others were resurrected by himself, and to some extent, they can be said to be his own people. It's normal to upgrade with your own people, just like inviting members of Astria's family before. Thank you, Chenxing. After getting Chenxing's reply, Artemis smiled faintly and thanked him. Speaking of which, my family will also go on an expedition with Morningstar next time. Let's help each other then. Hestia, who was sitting next to Morningstar, also spoke at this time, smiling. Yay, let them help each other then. Artemis nodded and responded. Speaking of which, Hephaestus, Sabaki, the weapon order has been settled, right? Morningstar glanced at the 2 and then looked at Hephaestus and Sabaki beside them and asked them. Yay, it's settled. Sabaki smiled and nodded. In that case, you can come with us on the next expedition. We fought to the 65th floor this time, but the weapons were seriously worn out, so we came back. You can come with us on the next expedition, and help repair and maintain the weapons then. Morningstar asked Sabaki. Even if you don't say it, I will mention it. I didn't go last time because I was delayed by the order, so I'm free this time. Sabaki nodded repeatedly and agreed without any hesitation. Yeah. Morningstar did not continue to chat with the others, but went to the kitchen to cook dinner. After dinner, Hephaestus, Artemis, and the other 2 said goodbye and left the library. Morningstar and Hestia were the only ones left in the library. When will Belle and the others come back? In the room, Morningstar hugged Hestia and asked. Belle and the others will probably be back in 2 days. They have been with the heretics these days, and seem to be helping the heretics to contact the adventurers, and they have achieved great results. Many adventurers staying on the 18th floor have accepted the existence of the heretics. Many adventurers on the ground have also accepted it. It is estimated that after a while, the heretics will be able to live on the ground. Hestia replied with a smile. Hey yeah, is that so? Although Xiaoan was hiding beside the heretics to pay attention to their safety, Morningstar really didn't know this. After all, the order that Morningstar gave to Xiaoan was to protect the safety of the heretics, and nothing else was needed. Yeah. After not seeing each other for more than half a month, the 2 had endless things to talk about. Leaning on the bed, the 2 whispered softly and arranged the Dragon Gate array for several hours before turning off the magic stone lamp. Morningstar, it's been more than half a month, let me see if you have regressed. Hestia's soft voice sounded in the dark night. Morningstar. The next morning, early in the morning, Morningstar left the library and went to the guild headquarters. I didn't think of it before, but when I was treating Hephaestus' cheek the night before, Morningstar suddenly remembered that it seemed that Aina's mother Aina was not in good health. It is said that she passed by the place where Behemoth was and suffered severe injuries. After that, her body became worse day by day, and she became a complete sickly person. Now that I remember it, Morningstar wants to help. His divine healing could even heal Hephaestus' face, so it should be possible to heal Aina's mother's body. However, after arriving at the guild, Chenxing discovered something that surprised him. Isai and the others, have they upgraded?